Chapter 456, Threat of the Second Prince. Back when she was attending Kargath Academy, when she had heard that her father had already confirmed an engagement between her and someone else, the princess had been extremely against such a proposal. She had even gone to visit her father in person several times to try and repeal it, but all her attempts had resulted in failure. But after she had grown up, the princess had gradually come to understand the situation. Right now, the Jessan kingdom could be considered to be a developing kingdom. And although she was a princess of a pampered status, there were many things she did not have the freedom to do independently. For example, she didn't even have any margin of choice regarding an important matter like lifelong marriage which related to her future happiness. Thus, she was born as a victim, to be sacrificed for the well-being of her kingdom. Such a fate like this had only been gradually accepted by her as time went on. Initially, when she had first heard of the king's proposal of marriage between Jian Chen and her, she had been against it. But since the moment she'd hear of Jian Chen's achievements and saw his appearance, her heart had gradually accepted him. After all, Jian Chen was handsome and talented. If he was able to become a Heaven Saint Master at the age of 21, his future potential was practically unlimited. Not only that, but he was also an imperial protector for the Qinhuang kingdom and was not arrogant despite holding such a status. In fact, he was rather amiable. After being enshrouded with so many glorious achievements, the princess image of Jian Chen had begun to change for the better. She could even say that Jia Chen was a natural-born slayer of the hearts of women, the knight in shining armor they dreamed of. Thus, the princess had secretly felt delighted at this marriage before because of Jian Chen's excellent qualities. Even if she were to survey the entire continent, it would be hard to find a man that would be able to measure up to Jian Chen. Moreover, Jian Chen's particularly strong amount of strength and special status were also extremely important to the princess. The thought of having such an outstanding person as her future husband stirred excitement in her heart. But at this moment, Jian Chen actually took the initiative to suggest dissolving the marriage. This made the princess feel extremely disappointed. Although only a very short amount of time had passed and the princess couldn't say she was absolutely smitten with Jian Chen, he had at the very least captured her affections. After a long while of silence between the two, the princess finally broke the odd silence with a question. Changyang Xiangtian, could you please tell me, why is it that you wish to rescind the marriage? Could it be your heart is already fixated with someone else? Jian Chen shook his head. Princess, you must have heard about what happened to me back then. I was forced to leave my Changyang clan for many years, and despite surviving these harsh conditions, I have made many enemies. They are very strong and are perhaps enemies that I cannot face off against as I stand today. Furthermore, there'll be an even more serious matter in the not-so-distant future. The final results are outside my range of anticipation, but I know that I must dedicate myself to improving my strength so that I will be able to avoid any possible calamity. Thus, I do not wish to waste time having any personal considerations with a woman. Hearing Jian Chen explain his reasoning, the princess let out a breath in relief before smiling at Jian Chen's handsome yet determined face. Changyang Xiangtian, it is no wonder that you were able to reach your current stage in such a short amount of time. Judging by how hard you work at cultivating, you must have suffered a lot these past few years. Hearing her speak those words caused Jian Chen to inwardly sigh. In the past few years, he had truly suffered many hardships and paid heavy prices. Not only had he walked the line between life and death multiple times, he had even truly died at one point. The current achievements he held today were by no means a coincidence. Princess, I hope that you can understand. I do not wish to have a relationship at the moment. I only wish to improve my own strength to be able to deal with the future. Jian Chen replied. He thought about the Shi family and the Jie clan. Both of these clans had saint rulers within their ranks. They were the people who really frightened Jian Chen. There was also the Yangji sect of the Qiangan kingdom. The patriarch had said something about guardian clans. This had also somewhat concerned Jian Chen. They shouldn't be that major of a faction, but the patriarch's words had caused Jian Chen to infer several things. And so, he started to fear that the guardian clans were far stronger than he had initially thought. Then there was also the matter with the tiger cub. Jian Chen had taken Elder Xiu's words to heart. Perhaps the white tiger cub had already caused a stir within the continent. The Gilligan clan had already been established as an enemy of the white tiger cub and would chase after it until either side dies. With the cub being a heavenly tiger god, the Gilligan clan would be extremely adamant on having it die before it could grow old, since the cub's complete growth would spell destruction for the Gilligan clan. Right now, what made Jian Chen worry the most was that the king of the Gilligan clan would not follow the agreement it had made with the humans and would leave Cross Mountains in order to personally find and kill the tiger cub. This king was a terrifying existence that could easily kill a saint ruler, so Jian Chen didn't dare face against the king of the Gilligan clan by himself without sufficient strength. Hesitating for a moment, the princess spoke, "Changyang Xiangtian. That year my father had personally made the proposal. But now that you wish to rescind this marriage, have you thought about the honor of our imperial palace?" Seeing Jian Chen grow silent, the princess hesitated for a moment before finally thinking of a solution. After a brief moment, she finally found the right words to speak. "How about this? You and I will go to my father and ask that the wedding be postponed for a later date. If we do that, Princess Yu will be..." Jian Chen looked a little embarrassed. If they were to do this, it would squander the princess youth. Right now he had only wished to improve his own strength, he had never thought about such a life-changing event like marriage. The princess let out a sigh in relief. After coming to a conclusion like this, her heart still felt a little helpless. If this were several years ago, she would have agreed to Jian Chen's suggestion of canceling the marriage without any hesitation. But now... Princess. I didn't think that I would come across you here, what a coincidence. Suddenly, a cheerful voice could be heard as a smiling youth approached them from far away. His age wasn't all that different from Jian Chen's and he was also quite handsome himself. However, he had a scholarly look to him that made him look weak, which was a huge contrast to the determined look of Jian Chen. Right behind this youth were two guards around the age of 50 with steady faces and fierce eyes. "That's the second prince of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom," the princess whispered to Jian Chen. Jian Chen nodded his head slightly as his eyes hovered onto the second prince of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom before quickly losing interest and looking around at the beautiful and colorful flowers appreciatively. The second prince wore a luxurious robe with a folding fan held in his hand. He approached them with an elegant stride. Without even waiting for a greeting from either of the two, he sat down on the stool by the stone table without sparing Jian Chen a glance. His face held a splendid smile as he spoke to the princess. "I never would have imagined that I would be able to come across the princess while on a simple stroll. It would appear that the princess and I, your exalted prince, were brought together by fate." The princess and the second prince exchanged several words of greeting before the second prince finally took notice of Jian Chen. "If I am not mistaken, then you must be fourth master of the Changyang clan, Changyang Xiangtian." The second prince revealed a faint smile on his face, but his expression was haughty and his words did nothing to hide his arrogance. He even looked at Jian Chen with a look of disdain. "That is correct, I am he." Jian Chen spoke emotionlessly. The second smiled before turning to look at the princess. "Princess, I wish to speak with Changyang Xiangtian in private." For a moment, the princess hesitated before finally standing up from her seat. "Then I won't be disturbing you too." Then, she walked out of the pavilion and across the sea of flowers by herself. After the princess left, the smile on the second prince's face disappeared only to be replaced with a threatening stare at Jian Chen. "Changyang Xiangtian, this prince knows of your engagement with the princess. But the princess is someone I have my eye on already. Each and every single suitor of the princess won't be getting past me, so this prince hopes that you will go to the king and rescind the marriage." Jian Chen gave a mocking look toward the second prince before speaking. "It isn't your turn to meddle in my affairs. Furthermore, you do not even have the rights to interfere. Your Majesty, if you don't have anything to say, please excuse yourself. The second prince's face changed color as his eyes began to gain a cold and detached look. Changyang Xiangtian, do you understand the words you are saying? Do you truly wish to have me as your enemy? Could it be that you wish for your Changyang clan to be destroyed? It would appear that you know not of the strength of the heavenly eagle kingdom. Jian Chen's mouth revealed a cold smile. With the second prince being so impolite, Jian Chen didn't bother to give any face to the prince. With disdain, he spoke, Your Majesty, do you have the qualifications to even be called my enemy? The Changyang clan is not one you can anger. As for the heavenly eagle kingdom, do you believe that with just a single command, I could have your entire heavenly eagle kingdom disappear overnight? Outrageous! The second prince roared in anger as his hand broke apart the stone table in two. His eyes glared fiercely with killing intent at Jian Chen before yelling, Changyang Xiangtian, you know not of the difference between the heavens and the earth. Since you are so willing to walk the path of doom, allow this prince to see you through and through. Knowing that you have now insulted my heavenly eagle kingdom, there will be no one to save you now. Come, apprehend him. We shall bring him back to the heavenly eagle kingdom to see how my father will deal with him. The two bodyguards standing behind the second prince walked forward with dark faces. The cold glints in their gazes carried powerful killing intent. Jian Chen's words just now had caused murderous thoughts to arise in both people. They both stretched a hand toward Jian Chen's shoulders with little concern for him. The corners of Jian Chen's mouth tilted up into a sneer of disdain. His finger lit up, causing azure and violet sword chi to shoot out and head straight toward the two people's outstretched palms. Chapter 457, Ming Dong pays a visit. The two soldiers didn't anticipate that Jian Chen would actually fight back, and the azure and violet sword chi was extremely fast as well. They had no time to dodge at all, so their palms were instantly skewered through with the sword chi, staining the area with blood. The two men instantly looked shocked as the sudden pain in their palms caused them to cry out involuntarily. They couldn't believe what had happened as they looked down at their own hands in surprise. Neither of them had expected the fourth master to be so capable. Although they were shocked, they weren't yet afraid of him. Even after taking the first loss, they didn't have any desire to retreat just yet. A large amount of saint force flowed out from the both of them to form their saint weapons. Grabbing them, they stabbed out at Jian Chen. The instant the two guards formed their saint weapons, the second prince quickly retreated back in fright. He clearly understood their strengths, and he didn't think that the fourth master of the Changyang clan would be able to force them to bring out their saint weapons. This event to him only served to scare him. Still sitting in the stone chair, Jian Chen's eyes showed contempt as he looked at the two guards striking at him. His hand waved gently, causing sword chi to shoot out from his fingers, slamming into the two saint weapons. When the azure and violet sword chi made contact, the two guards shook from the blow as a tremendous energy vibrated through their saint weapons and made their entire right arm go numb. Their arms felt heavy as they tried to hold their saint weapon, and their feet were dragged back away from the pavilion. The second prince looked at the two guards in shock. His expression revealed his astonishment. While he expected Jian Chen to react, he hadn't expected to see such a result like this. His two guards were both Earth Saint Masters, so none of the three had expected any resistance. The sounds of battle had been heard by the princess, who was appreciating the flowers from some distance away. Quickly hurrying on over, her eyes hovered over the broken stone table and asked, "What has happened for a fight to suddenly take place?" Standing up from his chair, Jian Chen walked to the side of the pavilion with his arms by his side. Looking at the second prince, Jian Chen spoke calmly, "Your Highness, you should understand that a loose tongue invites trouble. I hope that you will take notice of what you say. This world is not the world of the heavenly eagle kingdom." The second prince's face grew extremely dark as he listened to Jian Chen. "A loose tongue invites trouble, those are smart words." Changyang Xiangtian, this prince will remember those words. The future is long, we will wait and see what happens next. After those words, the second prince and his 2 guards left the place in a saddened state. Looking at the second prince retreat, Jian Chen had a faint cold smile on his face. The Heavenly Eagle Kingdom was not something he could bother with. The princess had a complicated stare as she looked at Jian Chen before walking to his side. Changyang Xiangtian, he is the prince of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom and this is the imperial palace of the Jessan Kingdom. Would this not attract trouble? There's no need to worry, I know what the appropriate behavior will be. If trouble truly does come, I will bear responsibility. Jian Chen spoke flatly. That wasn't my intention, the princess tried to explain but was then interrupted by Jian Chen. Princess Yu, we should return now. The second prince of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom was without a doubt one of the most heavily watched people within the imperial palace. Not too long after Jian Chen and the princess had left, the news that the second prince had suffered a loss in the flower garden had made its way to the ears of those people with influence. Even Changyang Ba and Bai Yun Tian who were chatting with the king had heard the news along with the other officials and the princes of the imperial palace. Within a splendid and luxuriously decorated palace room, 3 youths in their 20s sat by each other and were eating merrily. On the table, all sorts of exotic delicacies could be seen. Suddenly, a soldier came running into the room and spoke several words into the ears of 2 of the youths. Straight away, the 2 youths had shocked expressions flash over their faces. With a wave of their hand to dismiss the guard, they grew even more serious. Princes, what has happened? The other youth asked in confusion. The guards just sent us news that the 4th master of the Changyang clan has offended the second prince of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. This isn't good, the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom isn't a kingdom we can stand to offend. One of the princes spoke. What? Changyang Xiangtian? The third youth spoke in surprise before revealing a happy smile. Could it be that the 4th master, Changyang Xiangtian has returned? That's correct. Changyang Xiangtian has only just returned, we only just received information of that not too long ago. Seeing Brother Ming Dong's expression, could it be that you know him? The other prince spoke. Ming Dong nodded his head, I didn't think he would return that quickly, and to the imperial palace no less. Fellow princes, I will be taking my leave first then. With that, Ming Dong quickly left the 2 princes sitting by the table with looks of surprise and disbelief. Changyang Xiangtian knows Brother Ming Dong? A prince muttered in surprise. The second prince of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom looked furious as he and his bodyguard stormed back into his resting room. As soon as he entered the room, he slammed a palm onto a nearby table, causing the pricey wooden table to split in 2. Changyang Xiangtian, I will make you regret this. The disgrace you've brought me today, I will definitely return this favor back to you 1,000-fold. The second prince's eyes held a ferocious glare. As a prince of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, no matter where he went, he had never been so humiliated before. By that time, the Prime Minister had come back with an unhappy face. When he saw the furious look on the second prince, he couldn't help but ask out of curiosity, Second Prince, what has happened to make you so angry? The men of the Changyang clan are far too unbridled. After saying those words, the second prince recounted his tale of what had transpired in the flower garden. After hearing it, even the Prime Minister's face had grown serious as he spoke. To be able to push back 2 Earth Saint Masters at the age of 20, that sort of talent is terrifying. It is no wonder the Jessan Kingdom's king specifically chose the Changyang clan. It was because of Changyang Xiangtian. The second prince turned to look at the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, could it be that your discussion with the king failed as well? The Prime Minister nodded his head, that's correct. The king is adamant on having the princess marry Changyang Xiangtian. Even if I were to move the entire Heavenly Eagle Kingdom here, he would not budge an inch. However, the king is in his right to do as he does. If I were him, I would act in the same manner. I never imagined that Changyang Xiangtian had such a strength like this. If a talent like this is given time to grow, his future will hold no barriers. It is possible that he may usher the Jessan kingdom into a golden age. The second prince's eyes flashed with a fierce killing intent before speaking. He is a threat to the heavenly eagle kingdom. In the case that the Jessan kingdom grows strong, they will endanger our kingdom. Changyang Xiangtian cannot be left to live. With each word he spoke, his voice grew progressively colder. The Prime Minister nodded. That's correct, I have the same sentiments as well. With Changyang Xiangtian speaking such outrageous words, this gives us an excuse to act. Then I will bring some experts to take down Changyang Xiangtian. Unable to wait for even another moment, the second prince began to move. Wait a moment. The Prime Minister spoke. Your Highness, this servant has two ways to solve this. Then, he began to whisper into the second prince's ear. Jian Chen and the princess returned to the imperial palace where the king and his parents were still chatting to each other. Ah, my son-in-law, your timing is impeccable. Since you and Yue are no longer young, I believe that it would be a fine time to quickly wed the two of you. The king laughed as if he was in a hurry to quickly wed his daughter. Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian both had smiles on their faces as well as clear indications that they stood with the king. Hearing this, Jian Chen hesitated for a moment. Your Majesty, there is still some matters I need to take care of in the near future. I do not have time to consider a relationship at this moment, so we should postpone this wedding for now. The king narrowed his eyebrows and shared a look with Changyang Ba with an awkward expression. Father, your daughter also wishes to postpone the marriage for a later date. The princess suddenly spoke with a face that betrayed no emotion at all. Hearing that Jian Chen and the princess both wished to postpone the marriage, the king had no other choice. With a sigh, he replied, Fine then, since you two both wish to postpone it, then we shall postpone it. The king's face could barely hide his disappointment. Now that the fourth master of the Changyang clan had a status far unlike the one before, the king could only go along with him and feared to go against him. Xiang'er, why are you doing this? Bai Yuntian had a reproachful look. Mother, your son still has many things to do. There is no time at the moment for a marriage. Jian Chen had a bitter smile on his face. To the others, he was an imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom with the strength of a heaven saint master. But only he himself knew the extent of his strength. The wedding being postponed indefinitely had caused Changyang Ba, Bai Yuntian, and the king to all feel disappointed. As parents, they had naturally want to see their own child start a family, especially to a person that was superior in their traits. Everyone left soon afterward with Jian Chen and his parents heading to the room allocated for them. It was one of the more expensive palace rooms that was specifically made to receive such guests. At that moment, a guard came running in with a message. A report for the fourth master Changyang Xiangtian. There is a man named Ming Dong seeking audience. Chapter 458, Midnight Assassination. At that moment, a guard came running in with a message. A report for the fourth master Changyang Xiangtian. There is a man named Ming Dong seeking audience. Hearing Ming Dong's name, Jian Chen was stunned for a moment before a joyous smile overtook his face, and he quickly left the room. Seeing Jian Chen walk out of the palace, the white-robed youth standing outside revealed a smile. This was the Ming Dong that Jian Chen hadn't seen for half a year. Ming Dong had a happy smile as he walked toward Jian Chen and slapped him on the shoulders. Hey! Jian Chen, you actually did return. I was expecting you to come back later. Jian Chen looked over Ming Dong. There was a noticeable difference from the Ming Dong of half a year ago to the one right now. His aura had calmed down a bit and he no longer looked as impatient as before. Let's talk inside. Jian Chen laughed as he brought Ming Dong into the palace. This was the special palace allocated to Jian Chen by the king, so there were around 50 black armor soldiers outside. The two sat down in 2 chairs. A maid brought the two some snacks and 2 cups of tea before leaving after being dismissed. I was just planning on going to find you, but who would have thought that you were hiding away in the palace? Jian Chen was quite delighted. Ming Dong and him were like good brothers. Now that they had both met once again, they were naturally be happy. Back when the war had only just finished, I accepted the king's invitation. His kindness is a hard thing to decline, so I stayed within the palace for several days to try out the lifestyle here. This is the very first time I've lived in such a way, so I decided to stay for a little longer. Ming Dong laughed. Then are you done with such a lifestyle? Jian Chen laughed. Ming Dong took a bite of a snack and began to chew before speaking vaguely. I originally planned on staying for a little longer. But now that you're back, wherever you go, then I, Ming Dong, will naturally follow. Suddenly, Ming Dong looked to Jian Chen. Jian Chen, should I call you Changyang Xiangtian or Jian Chen? Just call me Jian Chen, I rather like that name. The name, Changyang Xiangtian, is something only my clan calls me. Outside of that, I am Jian Chen. Jian Chen spoke without hesitation. Ming Dong nodded his head before looking serious. The assignment you gave me has already been completed. The heaven's stolen fortune has already been given to your father. I know of your circumstances too. When the time comes, don't forget to call for me to help deal with the Huayun sect. Jian Chen laughed. There's no need. I've already dealt with the Huayun sect. Ming Dong was startled for a moment before he asked in confusion, dealt with? How so? Don't tell me that you've forgiven the Huayun sect that easily. Jian Chen and Ming Dong continued to talk through the night. When it came to Ming Dong, Jian Chen did not hide anything. Everything that had happened after the two had split, Jian Chen told him aside from the matter with the tiger cub. It wasn't because he didn't trust Ming Dong, but it was because the fewer people that knew about it, the better. Plus, if he did tell Ming Dong, there was a chance Ming Dong would feel a larger amount of pressure. After listening to Jian Chen speak of what happened, Ming Dong let out a slow breath of air. It was when Jian Chen spoke of the battle with the 8 Heaven Saint Masters that Ming Dong had nearly leaped out of his skin. I never thought that so many things like that could happen. The Jita clan and Shi family cannot be allowed to get away with this. Wait until we gain enough strength, we will definitely make those two pay a heavy price. But Jian Chen, this disaster has brought you some profit as well. Although you came across such misfortune, your strength has grown exponentially. You're even a Heaven Saint Master now as well as an Imperial Protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom. I can barely believe it. If I'm not wrong either, you're only 21 years old. It was only when it was late at night that Ming Dong left Jian Chen's place. As an esteemed guest of the Jessen Kingdom, he had his own room. After Ming Dong left, Jian Chen walked into his own room and sat on the bed to meditate. At this time, the tiger cub that had previously been sleeping on the bed, from absorbing the heavenly resources, finally awoke. Refreshed, the tiger cub stood on all 4 of its limbs and blinked its bright eyes at Jian Chen. Then, its body leaped onto Jian Chen's shoulder and used its shaggy head to rub Jian Chen's face as it let out a purr of content. The cub was able to control the size of its own body, so at the moment, its body was about the size of 1/3 of a meter. This was the equivalent to the size of a small cat, making it look rather cute. Taking the cub into his hands, Jian Chen regarded the strength of the cub with a small smile on his face. In just these past few days, the tiger cub had reached the strength of a Class 3 magical beast. This rate of growth was absolutely terrifying, and if this trend were to continue and he had enough heavenly resources, then it wouldn't even take another year for the cub to become a Class 5 magical beast. It's no wonder that the heavenly tiger god was a being only seen in the ancient past. This rate of growth is far too quick. Jian Chen sighed with admiration. Taking out several roots of 1,000-year heavenly resources from his space ring, Jian Chen spoke, continue to work hard and improve your strength. That way, you will be able to defend yourself. There was an undeniable allure from the heavenly resources to the small cub. Upon seeing the 1,000-year heavenly resources in Jian Chen's hands, the tiger cub's eyes began to sparkle before it quickly wolfed them down. Once it had ate its fill, with a content glint in its eyes, it curled up on Jian Chen's bed before falling asleep to absorb the resources. Seeing the sleeping tiger cub, a look of worry crossed Jian Chen's face. As time goes on, the amount of heavenly resources will be larger, and the amount of time needed to absorb them will increase as well. I don't know how much longer the heavenly resources I have on hand will last me. I will have to think of a solution soon. Afterward, Jian Chen slowly closed his eyes as he brought out 2 Class 5 monster cores. Without any ruler armaments, Jian Chen could only rely on the energy within the monster cores to convert to chaotic force. Jian Chen knew that the chaotic force was extremely strong, and despite it having no use at the current moment, there would be a day in the future where he would be able to use it after establishing a foundation for it. This foundation was his body. If he could strengthen his body, he would be able to withstand the chaotic force coursing through it. So right now, he needed enough chaotic force to strengthen his body. When he could make use of the chaotic force, Jian Chen was confident that his strength would make another large leap in quality. After half the night when the entire palace was a fearful calm, a squadron of black armor soldiers continued to patrol. They made their way around the imperial palace, moving in every direction in an attempt to protect the peace. Suddenly, a single figure hidden in the night came flashing forward headed toward Jian Chen's palace without a single sound. The darkness of the night protected his body from detection, as if he had become one with the darkness. Even if someone were to get close to him, they would be hard-pressed to know that he was there. This mysterious figure easily dodged the outermost black armor soldiers protecting the palace and slipped inside. Like the outside, the inner palace was dark without any lighting. The surrounding darkness bore no effect on the figure, allowing him to see everything clearly. Looking around himself, the figure silently entered Jian Chen's room where he saw Jian Chen sitting on his bed meditating. Inching closer to Jian Chen until he was within 10 meters, the figure took out a jade bottle and gently uncorked it, causing a faint gas to float toward Jian Chen. Waiting for the gas to fully assimilate into the room, he put away the bottle and replaced it with a black dagger. With a black stream of light, the dagger in his hand instantly shot toward Jian Chen's throat. Suddenly, an azure and violet glow of light flashed in the room before the crisp sound of metal hitting metal could be heard. The forward momentum of the dark figure came to a grinding halt before his legs staggered back several steps. With each step he made, the clear, distinct sounds of footsteps could be heard. How uncommon, to think that I would come across someone with the dark attributed saint force. A gentle voice could be heard within the dark room. As if the darkness hadn't affected his vision either, Jian Chen opened his eyes from his meditative state, and stared straight at the figure hiding in the darkness. You're not affected? How can that be? The hidden assailant cried out in shock. Jian Chen laughed, your poison was far too weak and had no effect on me. The figure knew that his assassination attempt had failed and he had even been discovered. This was a battle that he could not win. Without hesitation, the figure flashed away in a streak of dark light toward the outside without a sound. Dark-attributed cultivators were nicknamed the Kings of the Night. The night time was their domain. They could hide their auras perfectly within the darkness as if they were one with the night, making it hard for anyone to detect them. Did you think running would be that easy? Jian Chen laughed as he clutched at the air with his hand, causing the previously dark room to be illuminated. In an instant, a fire-red sword materialized in the room. The room was lit up from the light of a red flame that startled the guards on the outside. Whoosh! With a wave of his hand, the fire sword quickly shot away, like an arrow, from the room and ultimately toward the dark figure. Bang! A fierce explosion could be heard as the light from the fire spread throughout the sky, alerting the entire palace. The assailant was engulfed by the flames with a scream, revealing his position. His clothes had been set aflame, and although he had managed to escape the fire, he had suffered serious injuries. An assassin! There's an assassin! The previously quiet palace quickly turned lively as many black armor soldiers came running toward the source with torches. Many figures flashed across the rooftops as the higher-skilled figures charged toward the flames at a rapid pace. Upon seeing his position was revealed, the assailant had no wish to remain here any longer. He tried to climb into the darkness to escape despite his wounds. At that moment, an azure and violet flash of light could be seen flying at an extremely fast pace, blocking the man from escaping. Chapter 459, One after another. How outrageous, to dare try to assassinate the brother of Ming Dong, you truly don't wish to live. Ming Dong's face was dark as his eyes revealed a ferocious killing intent. He lashed out with a gust of wind attributed Saint force directed at the head of the assailant. Bang! Following the muffled sounds of contact, the assassin's head had blood fly out from where he was hit. Ming Dong had cracked his skull, causing a part of it to dent in a little bit. Without another sound, the assassin fainted. All of the Earth Saint Masters within the palace had finally arrived by the assassin's side. Each one held a single torch to illuminate the night and peered down to look at the assassin's face. The assassin's clothes had already disintegrated into ashes so that he was almost naked. Even his hair had been burned away and his skin was a darkened hue. His face had been disfigured, and with the injury given to him by Ming Dong, his appearance was already far too long gone to know who he was. Quickly, 100 black armor soldiers came rushing forward with even more black armor soldiers starting to congregate from all over into the area. What has happened just now? A deep voice called out from behind as the king came striding forward in his sleeping clothes along with several bodyguards. Your Majesty, an assassin infiltrated the palace in an attempt to assassinate the fourth master of the Changyang clan. But he was apprehended in the end. A black armor soldier reported to the king in a low whisper. Hearing this, the king had a dark expression. Arrest the assassin and throw him into the prisons. Interrogate him until we find out just who he is. Yes. Immediately, several soldiers took the fainted assassin and bound him up. Afterward, 2 Earth Saint Masters personally took the assassin away from the area. By this point, Jian Chen had arrived as well with both hands behind his back as he strolled toward everyone with a calm expression. Walking to Jian Chen's side, Ming Dong asked, Jian Chen, are you all right? Shaking his head, Jian Chen responded, I'm fine, he didn't touch me. With concern, the king arrived by Jian Chen's side as well, son-in-law, are you unharmed? That assassin didn't harm you, I hope. You needn't worry. This king will do his best to investigate this matter. With Jian Chen's newfound status supporting the Jessen kingdom, the king's personality to him had changed to be even more respectful. Jian Chen hesitated for a moment before nodding his head. Then I'll be troubling you. News of a mysterious assassin infiltrating the palace had caused ripples through the palace. Not only was the king surprised, but even the imperial palace's Heaven Saint Master Yiming had been startled before coming in person. The appearance of an assassin was no small matter, and his target was a particularly special person. However, as a suggestion of Jian Chen's, the matter was quickly brought to rest. Not too long later, the palace had grown silent once more. But now, even more black armors could be seen patrolling the palace during the night. And right outside Jian Chen's palace, the amount of soldiers had quadrupled in number, leaving 200 black armors standing around. Although the king knew that this served as decorative purposes only, it was the least he could do on the surface. Jian Chen returned to his room and sat back down on the bed once more. Both of his eyes had a glint that radiated with a cold killing intent. The night quickly passed, but in the morning, the loud sounds of clamor could be heard outside. Several black armor soldiers stood right outside the palace gates in a single line with stone expressions. They radiated a fierce spirit ready to kill. The head soldier spoke in a polite voice, "Your Highness the Second Prince and honored Prime Minister, this is the imperial palace of the fourth master of the Changyang clan. Without his permission, you cannot go inside." Opposite of them, a dozen soldiers dressed in a similar fashion from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. Leading that group at the front was the Second Prince and the Prime Minister. "Changyang Xiangtian has insulted our Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, and even more serious, he has treaded upon the honor of our kingdom. You will stand aside now. If not, then do not blame us for being rude." The Second Prince spoke harshly with an imposing amount of power. Although this was the imperial palace of the Jessen Kingdom, none of the people from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom saw the kingdom as a threat in any way. "Your Highness, no matter what the reason is, you cannot go in. Unless you have received the permission of the fourth master, we cannot let you in." The soldier spoke without backing down. "Humph, a tiny soldier is actually blocking the path of a prince? How preposterous is that?" The prince grew furious and waved a hand, "Charge in. If there's anyone that obstructs your way, give them no mercy." "Yes." The group from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom shouted as they waved their saint weapons. Although they had only 40 people, each one of them were Earth Saint Masters. Even at the peak of the Jessen Kingdom, the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom's strength was many times stronger than them and could easily dispatch multiple Earth Saint Masters. In contrast, out of the 200 black armors, only 5 of them were Earth Saint Masters. The rest were Great Saint Masters in majority. Thus, the difference between the two kingdoms' strengths was as clear to see as night and day. Despite this, however, the black armors refused to show any weakness and brought out their saint weapons. "Stay your hand." A sudden voice called out as Jian Chen came walking out from his palace out of the blue. On his face, a dark expression could be seen as he took notice of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. "Changyang Xiangtian, I had thought that you would at least try to hide, but you actually came out." The Second Prince's eyes were like fire as they burned with the humiliation that was etched in his memory. One step at a time, Jian Chen walked out from the palace and toward the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom's group with cold eyes. "Explain your reason for coming today. Changyang Xiangtian, you insulted my Heavenly Eagle Kingdom yesterday and stomped upon my kingdom's honor. If you have any sense left, then sit still and let yourself be captured so we can bring you back to our kingdom to await the king's punishment. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the responsibility if you don't." The Second Prince spoke arrogantly. This time he had been prepared and brought multiple experts, so he wasn't afraid of Jian Chen. Jian Chen's face had a cold smile on it as he looked at them with disdain. "Second Prince, if you leave now, then I'll let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, I will offer you the same advice, you will have to bear the responsibility of your actions." The Second Prince's eyes flashed fiercely, "You seek death, arrest him." As soon as the Second Prince spoke, the Earth Saint Masters had charged straight at Jian Chen. "Obstruct them." The leader of the black armors shouted. 5 of their Earth Saint Masters immediately flew forward to stop the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. Jian Chen gave a small snort before pointing a finger. Several rays of azure and violet sword chi flew out from his fingertips and instantly shot towards several of the Earth Saint Masters from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. The Heavenly Eagle Kingdom's Earth Saint Masters were just about to fight the black armors. Therefore, they hadn't paid any attention to Jian Chen. In the next moment, the sword chi pierced a hole straight through their chests. The experts of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom let out grunts as they retreated backward. They revealed looks of astonishment as they looked at Jian Chen behind the black armors. "Changyang Xiangtian, do you truly wish to make the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom your enemy? You don't know the extent of our Heavenly Eagle Kingdom." The Prime Minister spoke seriously. Jian Chen had beaten his expectations by large margin. And what does the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom matter? 2 envoys from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, do you believe that you will be able to walk away from the Jessan Kingdom's palace today? As soon as the Prime Minister spoke, another aggressive-sounding voice could be heard from behind. At this voice, the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom experts turned around with an incredibly furious expression. A single white-robed youth around the age of 28 came walking forward. The previous words were clearly spoken by him. Chapter 460, You and What Army? The second prince let out an angry smile. Good. Very well then, it seems that the Jessan Kingdom truly wishes to make the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom our enemy. Youngster, it matters not who you are, today this prince will ensure that you do not leave this place alive. You and what army? The youth's face had a look of disdain on it. Such a look of disdain caused the second prince to burst into a furious storm. If it weren't for the fact that he had no idea who this youth was, he would have long since ordered his soldiers to attack. Sire, who are you? Do you know that your words may be giving trouble to the Jessan Kingdom? The Prime Minister spoke with a dark expression. The youth laughed. This one is named Ming Dong. I am not from the Jessan Kingdom, so don't even bother linking me with them. Changyang Xiangtian is my sworn brother. If you truly dare to seek trouble with my brother, you will first have to go through me. Very well. Then allow us to see what sort of power you have to act so savagely. The second prince looked angrily at Ming Dong with a furious look. Go and capture him. 3 more experts from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom charged toward Ming Dong with bright but cold eyes. Their saint weapons rippled with a large amount of energy as they surrounded and struck at Ming Dong without mercy. With a little snort, Ming Dong's eyes flashed with a cold light as his saint force condensed in his right hand. In the next moment, a cyan-colored long sword materialized in his hand before striking out 3 times to meet the 3 saint weapons of his enemies. Following the metallic clang from the clash, the 3 Earth Saint Masters from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdoms paled in the face. Although the youth in front of them was quite young, his strength was no less than theirs. The cyan-colored sword had contained a stronger amount of saint force than their own weapons, and he was far more of a match for them. With this single collision, the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom's experts had been forced back several steps with startled expressions as they looked at Ming Dong. A 6th cycle Earth Saint Master, you've reached such a level? One of the Earth Saint Masters cried out in shock as disbelief filled his face. They themselves were geniuses with talent, but it was only after making use of a large amount of resources and dozens years of hard work that they were able to make it to the realm they were in now. But now, there was a youth that was no older than 30 years with a strength far beyond their own. This to them was a huge shock. What, he's a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master? The second prince was startled as well. Looking at Ming Dong's young face, his heart felt disbelief. However, his face darkened for a moment before speaking. It matters not if he's a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master. Have some of you go capture him for daring to speak such arrogant words to your prince. This cannot be forgiven, otherwise, where would the honor of our Heavenly Eagle Kingdom go? Yes. At the prince's command, another 6 Earth Saint Masters came forward to strike at Ming Dong. His Majesty the King has arrived. Suddenly, a single large cry could be heard as the king and several black armor soldiers could be seen walking by his side in a hurry. The king wore a long white robe with his hair somewhat disheveled. Clearly, he had been in a rush to come over. Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian were right behind him. The king cast an eye down at the spectacle before him before looking to the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom with a dark look. Second prince, what is the meaning of this? There was an angry look to the king's eyes as his attitude toward the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom dropped several degrees in temperature. Your Majesty, Changyang Xiangtian and Ming Dong are far too impudent and have offended my Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. This prince wishes to take these 2 back home to await my father's punishment. Each and every man that dares to offend my Heavenly Eagle Kingdom cannot be forgiven. This is a matter that you should stay out of. The second prince spoke coldly as if to look down on the king. Second Prince, you will take your men and leave this place at once. If you continue to make trouble, then your heavenly eagle kingdom will not be able to handle the consequences. The second prince snorted, Your Majesty, could it be that you wish to get in the way of my heavenly eagle kingdom? Second prince, this is the imperial palace of the Jessan kingdom. This is not your heavenly eagle kingdom. The king was furious now. Now that the Jessan kingdom had the rapport of the Qinhuang kingdom, he no longer feared the heavenly eagle kingdom. Furthermore, the imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom was his future son-in-law. This connection between them was nearly as tight as iron. And if we continue to persist on this matter? The Prime Minister asked. If you continue to persist on making trouble within the imperial palace, then do not expect I, Yi Ming, to be sensitive to your feelings. A sound came from the sky as the white-robed figure of Yi Ming came flying in, landing right beside the king. Prime Minister Che let out a snort. It appears that the Jessan kingdom truly desires to see our heavenly eagle kingdom as an enemy. Fine then, Senior Georgian, we will be troubling you to make the first move. At the Prime Minister's words, a single 50-year-old man came forward from the group. The man was rather ordinary looking without any single outstanding detail to him. A figure like him would be easily looked over. I didn't think that your envoy group would have a Heaven Saint Master. I, Yi Ming, have made an error in judgment. Yi Ming laughed with eyes that revealed some astonished. The Prime Minister and the Second Prince were practically oozing with confidence, leading the Prime Minister to say, a prince of our heavenly eagle kingdom came from far away. If there was no Heaven Saint Master as his bodyguard, the king would never be satisfied. That much is true. Yi Ming nodded in agreement. However, you only have one Heaven Saint Master, that does not change much. Georgian stepped forward with an earth-shattering amount of power flowing out from his body. It appears that your Jessan kingdom is dead set on making our heavenly eagle kingdom your enemy. Changyang Xiangtian and Ming Dong are two characters that we will definitely bring back. If you continue to intervene, then our two kingdoms will meet again with swords and shields. At this moment, Jian Chen spoke, Senior Yi Ming, since they are so determined to take me, then let them take me. I will settle this matter myself, you needn't join in. Jian Chen spoke with a calm expression, but his eye toward the heavenly eagle kingdom was full of discontentment. Yi Ming and the king both looked at each other for a moment before the king spoke, all right, since that is what my son-in-law wishes for, then this king dares not disagree. Jian Chen, this group of men is too impudent. We have to teach him a lesson, I'll cheer you on. Ming Dong spoke. He knew just how strong Jian Chen was in his heart. Jian Chen nodded his head with a smile. Facing the heavenly eagle kingdom, he spoke, since your group wishes to take me back, hurry up and make your move. I don't have that much time to squander with you. You rampant brat. Georgian's face grew dark. He knew that Jian Chen was quite strong himself, but he made the first move anyway. Transforming into a blur of light, his right hand rippled with saint force before attempting to slam it into Jian Chen's throat. Jian Chen's right hand made a fist and brought a large amount of the fire element in the world around it. Without any hesitation, he brought it against Georgian's own hand. As the two sides met, a large amount of energy flowed in every direction, causing dirt and sand to fly everywhere, throwing up a dust storm that covered the entire place. After the strike, Georgian's body was sent flying back. With a startled look at Jian Chen, he exclaimed, that was the energy of the world. If you can control the energy of the world, you've already stepped into the realm of the Heaven Saint Masters. At this remark, those who had not known about Jian Chen's strength let out looks of extreme disbelief. Even the normally stone-faced black armor soldiers were shocked. What? A Heaven Saint Master? Changyang Xiangtian is a Heaven Saint Master? No, that can't be. That can't be possible. The second prince grew pale instantly as shock registered on his face. Even the Prime Minister had a nasty look on his face. It is quite unfortunate that you found out too late. Jian Chen spoke coldly. A bright glow of azure and violet light could be seen as Jian Chen brought the origin energy of the sword spirits toward Georgian. Knowing that he was now fighting a man of equal ranking as him, Georgian could hold back no longer. Immediately bringing out his saint weapon, he slashed at Jian Chen as well. Ding! Georgian simply had no idea how strong the origin energy of the sword spirits were. At the moment of impact, between the saint weapon and origin energy, a large metallic sound could be heard before a decent-sized hole appeared on Georgian's saint weapon. PFT. Georgian sprayed out a mouthful of blood as his face instantly grew pale. At the same time, he looked down at his saint weapon with a look of shock. How is this possible? You damaged my saint weapon. Georgian cried out in shock. Fear flooded his body in waves and completely unsettled him. Jian Chen gave Georgian no breathing room and immediately brought the origin energy together in a resplendent light that shot toward Georgian a second time. After taking a loss the first time, Georgian was now afraid of the azure and violet sword spirits. Fearing a second clash, he immediately dodged the blow. Jian Chen hadn't stopped to rest after the miss. Making use of the origin energy, he considered it to be the same as his old light wind sword. Despite not having any saint force inside his body to support himself or maintain a high speed, with the wind element aiding him, Jian Chen's speed was not too slow either. Georgian had only just dodged the third blow by a narrow margin, but before he could stabilize himself, Jian Chen's fourth sword strike had already come down on him. Forcing Georgian in a situation where he couldn't dodge, he could only use his saint weapon to block it. As the two weapons clashed, Georgian's saint weapon gained a new nick as it took damage once more. This caused his body to be injured as well. Blasted, what power is this? How could you be that strong? Georgian was astounded. Against such a powerful strike, he hadn't even been able to dodge. In the end, he was dominated without even being able to use his full strength. With these serious injuries, Georgian's strength had taken a huge dip. In the end, after being hit by another blast of Jian Chen's fist, encased in the fire element, to his chest, Georgian flew back with a mouthful of blood flying out. Chapter 461, a name that spreads everywhere under the eyes of everyone. Georgian was defeated by Jian Chen. He flew through the air, tumbling 20 meters away to the ground. Even after he had stopped rolling, blood could be seen pouring from his pale mouth. At this stunning sight, everyone from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom was astonished. The previously confident second prince and Prime Minister Che turned pale, and the second prince started to shiver and shake with fear. When they planned on causing trouble within the imperial palace of the Jessan Kingdom, they were relying heavily upon Georgian as a heaven saint master. Georgian had been dealt serious injuries in several moves, indicating the difference between their strengths. Now that Georgian was powerless to defend himself, how would he be able to defend the second prince? The entire group of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom now had nasty looks on their faces. Each one stood by the second prince and prime minister with dignified stances as if prepared to defend them from the Jessan Kingdom. Jian Chen had been able to defeat a heaven saint master in such a short amount of time. This had shocked everyone to the point of causing them to be speechless. He was so young, but he was already a heaven saint master with a strength that was absolutely mind-blowing. Furthermore, the strength he wielded was not just an ordinary amount of strength. A battle between heaven saint masters was usually filled with an enormous amount of energy. Victory would not be so easily determined in such a short amount of time, but Jian Chen had managed to inflict 2 severe wounds on a heaven saint master within a brief 2 breaths worth of time. A strength this strong was far too shocking for anyone. Georgian coughed up violently enough for 2 people before slowly bringing himself up from the ground. Terrified, he looked at the young Jian Chen in front of him. He could hardly believe that Jian Chen was just a barely 20 years old youth. With such a strength like this along with a mysterious power that could destroy saint weapons, Georgian's heart was filled with terror. Jian Chen would hold the advantage, even in a battle against a Heaven Saint Master, because he wielded this power. At the very least, he would be able to easily kill a Heaven Saint Master. After all, in a battle between two people, a clash of weapons was unavoidable. Since saint weapons were linked to their owner's life, if their saint weapon was damaged, the owner would be severely damaged as well. Since Georgian was using his sword to support himself off the ground, the two jagged chips on his sword were clear to see. Just what is this power of yours? To be able to so easily damage my saint weapon? Georgian looked at Jian Chen seriously. Although he tried to force himself to look calm, his words had already betrayed a hint of a stammer. That power of Jian Chen's completely terrified Georgian. Jian Chen recollected the origin energy back into his own body and wrapped his hands against his chest. I see no need to tell you that. Men of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, were you not quarreling earlier about capturing me? Have everyone come forth, I, Changyang Xiangtian will receive you. The experts from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom all looked at each other. They were caught in a situation where they could neither advance nor retreat. Now that they knew Jian Chen's strength, they had already lost the previous arrogance they had. Even the second prince and prime minister had fallen silent. Their enemy had easily defeated a Heaven Saint Master, so even if all the Earth Saint Masters were to charge at him, they would only be charging toward their deaths. A Heaven Saint Master and an Earth Saint Master were on completely separate worlds in strength, one traveled the heavens, the other traveled the earth. The difference between the two sides could not be argued about. Georgian took in a deep breath, his expression began to grow dejected as he reclaimed his saint weapon. I had no idea that the Jessen Kingdom would have such a blessed genius. Changyang Xiangtian, you are strong and there is no doubt that I am not a match for you. As a representative of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, I wish to apologize for the rude display from before. Without waiting for a response from Jian Chen, Georgian began to lead the entire group away. Halt, where are you going? Ming Dong's figure suddenly appeared in the way of the group and laughed. Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, did you really think that my brother and I would be that easy to bully without consequence? You were just going on about capturing the two of us to bring back to your shitty highness as if we were beneath your notice. But now that you know you are no match, you decide to slip away. How easy do you think that'll be? Georgian's face darkened as a hint of anger flashed across his face. Then what are you thinking of? He growled. Your entire group will remain here, do not even think about leaving the Jessen Kingdom's imperial palace. Ming Dong spoke coldly with an earnest look. At this, everyone from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom blanched for a moment before the Prime Minister spoke. Then do you plan to completely imprison everyone here, or do you wish to kill us all? Even the tiny Heavenly Eagle Kingdom can be so savage. Ming Dong snorted before looking to Jian Chen. Brother, how do you propose we deal with them? Last night's events cannot be so easily forgiven. Although the assassin from yesterday night had been captured, his mouth was sealed tight and so the Jessen Kingdom were unable to figure out his true identity or affiliations. To anyone with a sharp mind, there was a mutual understanding of the truth. Jian Chen thought for a moment before waving his hand. Ming Dong, let them go. Jian Chen, don't tell me you'll let them walk away that easily. Ming Dong had an unwilling look on his face. Let them go, that is what I plan to do. Jian Chen spoke. With Jian Chen so resolute on his decision, even Ming Dong had no alternative. Stamping past the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, he spoke, you better hope that your paths will not cross with me in the future. Otherwise, you will not get off easily. With that, Ming Dong allowed them to pass and stood by Jian Chen's side. The entire group from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom let out a sigh in relief. Without any hesitation, they quickly left the area. They no longer had any face to stay within the Jessen Kingdom. When the envoy left the palace, they immediately left for the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. Jian Chen, why did you let them go? Ming Dong asked the question that was weighing on his mind. The Jessen Kingdom has only just experienced a war and is greatly injured. We cannot bear to make the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom our enemy. Jian Chen said. What are you afraid of? Don't forget your current status. Are you afraid of a tiny kingdom like the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom? Jian Chen shook his head. Although the power of the Qinhuang Kingdom is tremendous, so is the distance from there to here. Having the army dispatched here is far too unrealistic, and since the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom is so close to the Jessan Kingdom, with their power, it is best to not be caught in a deadlock with them. Although I am not afraid, the Jessan Kingdom cannot be thrown into this. So you were thinking about the well-being of the Jessan Kingdom. Ming Dong felt relieved. He had always been alone and thus had always looked out only for himself, no matter what. Very rarely did he ever consider the consequences of his own actions, so he had not initially understood why Jian Chen had gone through such troubles. The king had reached Jian Chen's side and begun to speak several words of concern to him. His attitude was that of a father who cared for his son. Speaking kindly, the king already saw Jian Chen as his son-in-law. The disturbance of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom had quickly died back down, but Jian Chen's strength had been revealed. News of his strength spread through the imperial palace and had made him a revolutionary figure from within. At the same time, Jian Chen and the princess marriage had been circulated as well for everyone to know. Although the engagement had been confirmed several years ago, it had not been announced until now. Only the two sides and the Huayun sect knew of the engagement before, making the marriage a secret within the palace. After the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom's envoys had left, the king invited Jian Chen and his family back into the palace to have a discussion in private. Not too long after, an imperial decree was given that shocked the entirety of the Jessan Kingdom. Changyang Xiangtian, the fourth master of the Changyang clan, would now hold the title of an imperial protector of the Jessan Kingdom with an authority that was not below the king himself. At the same time, the king announced Changyang Xiangtian's marriage to the princess, letting everyone in the entire kingdom know about the affair. After this series of events had happened, the previously low-profile Changyang clan in Lore City became one of the most heavily watched clans within the entire Jessan Kingdom. Their reputation had grown to the point where everyone knew about them and could no longer be as low-profile as they were before. Furthermore, Changyang Xiangtian became a person of interest to everyone in the kingdom. Every single deed or achievement he had accomplished before was investigated by the masses, and they gradually learned even more things about him. The strength Jian Chen revealed at the imperial palace hadn't been kept secret. Instead, the king had secretly spread news of it. Quickly, the news of a 21-year-old Heaven Saint Master spread throughout the kingdom for everyone to know. However, this piece of information had led to everyone turning their nose up in disbelief of the news. A 21-year-old Heaven Saint Master? That was far too ridiculous. In a luxurious tavern in Lore City, a brightly red-dressed Dugu Feng sat by himself and drank a cup of wine. Everyone had been talking about the matter with Jian Chen, but Dugu Feng had cared not for this and turned his nose up, unconvinced. Suddenly, a random conversation at a nearby table caught Dugu Feng's attention. This Changyang clan is one of the 4 great clans in our Lore City, aren't they? The matters regarding their fourth master, Changyang Xiangtian, are things I know about. I've heard that even when he was young, he was a genius among geniuses. In Kargath Academy, he defeated a middle great saint and several other saints working together as a primary saint. How amazing is that? However, he had offended the Huayun sect and mysteriously disappeared after that without a single trace. It was only in these past 2 days that he suddenly reappeared. Dugu Feng slowly put down the wine cup in his hand as his eyebrows knit together in thought. He was also from Lore City. Could it be him? Could it be that when he went to the Holy Lands, he managed to make the breakthrough to become a Heaven Saint Master? Chapter 462, Illusion Array, 1. After listening to Jian Chen's suggestion, the tidbit that indicated that Jian Chen was the imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom was not revealed. So when he became an imperial protector for the Jessan kingdom, several dukes and chancellors contested it, but their voices were tiny. With the king having the support of both Yi Ming and Kafir, the opposition was quickly suppressed, which gave way to Jian Chen becoming an imperial protector for the Joseon kingdom. In fact, he was now the only imperial protector the Joseon kingdom had. The coronation ceremony for Jian Chen becoming an imperial protector was packed with people. Practically anyone that was anybody in the Joseon kingdom showed up. Not only did the 3 other major clans from Lore City send their representatives to show their support, but even many people from faraway cities came to participate. This event caused the name of the Changyang clan to skyrocket. They completely overshadowed even the Huayun sect's power to the point where they had replaced them as the authority figure. At this, Changyangba didn't know whether to laugh or cry. There was a helpless look on his face knowing that the Changyang clan could no longer be as low profile as before. Once the coronation ceremony had finished, Jian Chen and his family left the imperial palace shortly after. On the second day, they left the palace and were accompanied by 500 black armors back to Lore City. Ming Dong followed Jian Chen away from the imperial palace. Within the troops, there was a single white-dressed beauty that was very easy to see. Situated among the black armors, she was like a beautiful flower that was blossoming in a magnificent manner that was both eye-catching and dazzling. The princess of the Joseon kingdom had begged to leave the imperial palace in order to temporarily live with the Changyang clan under the guise of wishing to nurture and cultivate their relationship. Changyangba and Bayuntian had both heartily agreed to her request, since this was what the both of them had been hoping for. With their agreement, even Jian Chen was helpless to disagree. The entire family traveled on merrily with laughter as they comforted each other with happy words. Because of the pace, they arrived back at Lore City by the afternoon of the second day. Lore City had long since received information that they were approaching, and had a giant party ready to receive them at the gates with respectful smiles and polite attitudes. After the welcoming, Jian Chen and his group returned to the Changyang manor with the 500 black armors declining to stay any longer. Once they were done with their meal, they immediately started their trek back to the imperial palace. The Changyang clan was decorated with bright lights and colored banners to symbolize the happy state of the manor. Jian Chen had just stepped across the gates to the clan when he realized that there was a difference from the Changyang clan from before. The patrolling soldiers around the clan and even the clan's servants displayed prideful expressions on their faces. Their heads were also held high in a dignified fashion. "Huh, clan leader, fourth lady, Xiangtian, you've finally arrived back home." Among the higher-ranking elders waiting for them, a familiar-looking face immediately called out to the returnees when they came into sight. "I never would have imagined that my Changyang clan would have such a talented offspring. This is truly a boon for my Changyang clan." An elderly voice could be heard from behind only to reveal the elder that guarded the library. His face revealed a gentle smile that did nothing to hide his prideful and gratified expression. "Xianger, this is your grandfather, come pay your respects." Changyang Ba quickly spoke to Jian Chen in a low, serious voice. Hearing this, Jian Chen immediately went to salute him. "I pay my respects to grandfather." The grandfather laughed before looking over Jian Chen for a moment. Nodding in approval, he spoke, "Neither arrogant nor hot-tempered, good, good. Truly a dragon among men, and despite your age, you have already a dignified heir to you." Jian Chen's family members exchanged several words of greeting with the higher echelons of the clan before heading off to rest. On the way back to his own room, every single guard that saw Jian Chen immediately gave him a respectful salute. Each one looked at him with an eye of adoration while several others showed a tint of jealousy. Suddenly, outside the gates of the Changyang clan, a richly dressed 28-year-old youth in red, with hair of the same color could be seen. His complexion was firm and his aura unordinary, making anyone that saw him know he was no ordinary person. The youth had been immediately blockaded by the guards at the gate. One of the gatekeepers immediately called out, "Halt, this is the Changyang clan. Without an invitation, no one can enter." The youth paused right in front of the gate and spoke calmly, "I am looking for Changyang Xiangtian." Impudence. Are you one that can call the fourth master by his name? The two gatekeepers immediately grew solemn as they looked at the newcomer with unfriendly looks. Because of the fact that Jian Chen had elevated the Changyang clan into a position of power among the Jessan kingdom, the guards felt as if everyone were beneath them now. The youth was not angry and continued to speak calmly, "I am called Dugu Feng. Go and report to Changyang Xiangtian. If he knows me, he will naturally come out." Hearing this, the two gatekeepers gave each other a mutual look as if to send a message before calming down momentarily. One of the guards spoke, "Please wait here, I will report to the fourth master." Quickly, Jian Chen and Ming Dong, who were chatting to each other, heard about Dugu Feng being here. With a happy look, Ming Dong and Jian Chen immediately walked for the giant gate. Seeing Jian Chen's rushed manner, the guard that came forward to alert him was startled. He thought back to the way he had treated Dugu Feng and immediately grew afraid that Jian Chen would take his anger out on him, causing him to grow extremely anxious. He knew now that the Changyang clan was a major power, but the one who held the power wasn't the clan leader. Instead, it was the fourth master Changyang Xiangtian. His words were worth far more. Jian Chen arrived at the front of the gates where he saw Dugu Feng, someone he had split paths with half a year ago. Right now, Dugu Feng was still the same as he was before. There was no change to his appearance, and there was still a cold and detached look to him. "I don't see the wrong person, it really is you." Jian Chen laughed. Seeing that the fourth master of the Changyang clan was the one he had been looking for, Dugu Feng couldn't help but break out into a smile. "So you were originally called Changyang Xiangtian. It's no wonder I wasn't able to find you for so long in Lore City." Laughing, Jian Chen didn't bother to explain at that moment and replied, "Come in, we'll talk inside." Afterward, the two guardsmen let out a breath in relief and joy the moment they had disappeared. Jian Chen had taken Dugu Feng into the clan compound. "I didn't think that he would actually be the friend of the fourth master. It is a good thing we didn't offend him, otherwise, it would be foolish of us to think we could remain in the Changyang clan." One of the guards spoke with some lingering fear while the other guard nodded in agreement. Jian Chen took Dugu Feng into his own room and began to talk with him. From Dugu Feng's own mouth, Jian Chen had already known that Dugu Feng had left the Dugu clan. From that moment on, he was no longer affiliated with the Dugu clan, and whatever he did now, would not affect the Dugu clan in any way. The manner in which Dugu Feng had conducted himself gave rise to Jian Chen having respect for him. In his heart, he had already thought of Dugu Feng as someone worthy of respect. Although neither person had known the other for long, Jian Chen knew that he could trust him. "Ah, Jian Chen, don't you have the mercenary group? Have Dugu Feng enter it, our strength will increase once more with him." Ming Dong suddenly suggested. "I had that idea as well." Jian Chen smiled before his eyebrows knit together. "I don't know when Signorin and Yunzheng will arrive." "It's simple, Jian Chen. Didn't you give an address to Signorin and Yunzheng? All you have to do is notify the city lord and have them ask everyone that enters. This way, when Yunzheng and Signorin arrive, we'll be notified, and if they haven't come, we won't waste any time." Ming Dong proposed. Jian Chen's eyes lit up, that is a good proposal. Xiao Yu, call housekeeper Sid over." Afterward, Jian Chen told housekeeper Sid to go to the city lord and instruct him to do as commanded. Sid immediately ran for the city lord's mansion with great speed and relayed the instructions word for word for the city lord to hear. When the lord of Lore City heard of the command that came from the fourth master Changyang Xiangtian himself, he immediately grew serious. Without any hesitation, he went off to make the arrangements himself. After several days, Jian Chen had finally finished all the matters from the Jessan kingdom as well as his own home. For now, he could relax. Late at night, Jian Chen sat on his bed and took out a map from his space ring. "It's about time to investigate that Saint Ruler's cave." I hope it does not disappoint and has a ruler's armament, saint ruler's skeleton, or anything else that could help me cultivate my chaotic force. When I am able to use my chaotic force, my strength will surely reach a new realm. Ah, I cannot wait. On the morning of the second day, Jian Chen told Ming Dong, Du Gufeng, and his parents that he would be leaving. He then flew through the air toward the cave of the Saint Ruler, indicated on the map. The cave of the Saint Ruler was situated 50,000 kilometers southwest of the Qiangan Kingdom in a mountain range. It was only 11,000 kilometers away from his Changyang clan. It would take 2 or 3 days to arrive if Jian Chen were to travel without rest. Chapter 463, Illusion Array, 2. Jian Chen quickly passed over the boundaries between the kingdoms and finally arrived at the beautiful mountain ranges on his third day of traveling. This large mountain range was extremely vast and the peaks pierced the clouds, hiding more than half the mountain from below. This mountain range was not as ordinary as it looked. There was an abundant amount of energy from the world, about 2 to 3 times the normal amount. Even without a monster core, this was still a very decent place to cultivate. In this place, double the work could be done with half the effort. Jian Chen floated 100 meters up the mountain before looking around. Sometimes, he would refer to the map in his hands as he searched for the area where the cave was. Several moments later, Jian Chen let out a sigh in disappointment. Although the map indicated that the cave of the Saint Ruler was in this mountain range, it was not all that detailed and did not accurately pinpoint where the cave was. Jian Chen looked once more at the topography of the entire area and focused on it in his mind. Putting away the map, he began to use the wind element to envelop his body, allowing him to fly into the air. At the same time, he began to spread his presence out. It covered a diameter of 15 kilometers in an attempt to scour the entire range for any hints or clues to the secret cave. Quickly, Jian Chen arrived in the depths of the mountain range when all of a sudden his eyes noticed something strange. Up ahead, there were hundreds of wooden houses scattered about in a single ring and a 50-meter-tall tower stood in the middle. On top of the tower, 3 bold words were written on it, Pure Heart Pavilion. Within the mountain ranges, there is still a hidden sect? Jian Chen was extremely curious and began to fly toward the buildings. Just as Jian Chen drew close to the Pure Heart Pavilion, an elderly voice could be heard through the air. A guest is approaching from far away, how delightful. Disciples, let us welcome him. As soon as he spoke, the doors to the houses began to open as men wearing all sorts of clothes began to walk out. Both men and women, of varying age with smiles adorning their faces and a spirited aura surrounding them, appeared. At the same time, a white-robed elder came flying from the tower. The elder had a long braided hairstyle and held the air of a sage to him as if he was one who had achieved the status of an immortal. Jian Chen floated 500 meters away from the entire crowd with a suspicious look on his face as if he was trying to figure out what they would do next. His presence had already spread throughout the Pure Heart Pavilion sect grounds, and from his presence, he could clearly sense their strengths without fail. There weren't many people to the sect, about 60 people total. Aside from the long-haired elder, there was still another Heaven Saint Master gathered within the crowd. Half of the 60 people were at the Earth Saint Master realm while the remaining half were at the Great Saint Master level and under. Traveler, if you are inclined, please come sit at our Pure Heart Pavilion for a while. The floating Heaven Saint Master had a smile on his face as he spoke. Laughing, Jian Chen spoke, we are complete strangers. Sire has neither idea if I am a well-doer or an evil-doer. Yet, I am invited in on our very first meeting. Does Sire truly trust this one that much? The elder laughed in return before using his hand to stroke his beard. Pure Heart Pavilion, ah, Pure Heart Pavilion. As the name implies, we are of pure heart with few desires. As such, our Pure Heart Pavilion is penniless and we do not covet wealth like those other sections. We desire no items, and since we disciples cultivate in hiding, we have no enemies. Friend, you think too much." Hearing this, Jian Chen had a suspicious expression on his face. He had already traveled the Tianyuan continent for a very long time and met all sorts of people, but those with pure hearts and few desires. He could safely say that he had never met anyone like that before. "In that case, this one will be troubling you for a while." Jian Chen accepted with cupped hands before following them into the sect. Under Jian Chen's omnipresence, the area of the Pure Heart Pavilion wasn't hidden at all. However, what led to Jian Chen being surprised was that the elder was true to his word and the entire sect was extremely impoverished. As an example, none of the disciples could be seen wearing a space belt or ring or even anything similar. There were no monster cores, no exotic foods, or any valuable jadeite pearls or stones. Even the more fundamental items to living like rice could not be seen. Furthermore, when it came to the disciples of the sect, Jian Chen could see that they were all pure in the sense of not wishing for anything. Each one of them had an air of a person who had rejected the secular world. Knowing this, Jian Chen could hardly believe his eyes. This feeling was almost like he was in a completely different world. Jian Chen followed the elder into the tower where he was given a single cup of pure mountain water. "I am Tian Shuzi, a master of sorts to the Pure Heart Pavilion. For my very young friend to reach such a high level of strength, I cannot help but find it hard to believe." Tian Shuzi sighed in admiration. "Was elder able to tell my age that easily?" Jian Chen was greatly astonished. Within the continent, the appearance of a person was not always an accurate method of determining age. Unless it was someone who knew of his details, anyone that saw him as a heaven saint master would never believe he was as young as he looked. Another reason for that was because within the Tianyuan continent, there were many methods for a person to maintain their youthful appearance. Tian Shuzi nodded his head as his right hand moved to stroke his long beard. Slowly, he said, "The mysteries within the ancient records my Pure Heart Pavilion cultivates with allows us to see the origin of everything clearly. So my young friend, I can see your age quite clearly as well. You are no older than 25 years old." At his statement, Jian Chen truly felt astonished. Seeing how Tian Shuzi's stare had a slight change to them, Jian Chen sighed in admiration. "It seems that your sect truly practices an extremely mysterious record." The elder laughed. "Of course, the Pure Heart secrets are truly abstruse and can decipher the origins of everything, but those capable of cultivating these secrets are rare and few. The Pure Heart Pavilion has existed on this mountain range for well over 1,000 years, but in this current generation, the sect has never had as many disciples as now. That said, we only have 80 disciples. The other 20 disciples are out traveling the continent to seek others that are capable of practicing our Pure Heart secrets. Those who can practice the Pure Heart secrets are far too few in this world. Because of the secrets, a practitioner must be pure of heart and have little desires. Otherwise, they wouldn't make any progress. At the same time, the rates in which practitioners learn at are slower than the outside world. Firstly, that is because we focus on tempering the mind. Secondly, we cannot absorb the energy within a monster core and instead absorb the pure energy of the world to slowly accumulate energy. For that reason, our speed is not yet like those of the outside world. It would appear the heavens are fair. If the Pure Heart secrets are that divine in power, then its restrictions make sense." Jian Chen had said, this was the very first time he had seen or heard of such a strange method of cultivation. "Little friend, I know that you would not have come out here without reason. Why have you come to this mountain range?" Tian Shuzi asked. Jian Chen sat upright with both eyes staring back at Tian Shuzi. Feigning a casual air, he asked, "Sire, you must have lived within these mountains for a very long time and thus, know it like you know your own hand. Would Sire know of any strange areas within these mountains?" Tian Shuzi gave a beaming smile at Jian Chen. "The strange area you are talking about, it must be that Saint Ruler's cave, yes?" Jian Chen's eyes lit up as he cupped his hands and smiled. Sire has an amazing prophetic ability to be able to speak so accurately. Not at all, this elder has no such ability. It is only that the cave of the Saint Ruler is the only area in this mountain range with any mystery to it. Tian Shuzi spoke. The predecessor living in that cave was extremely mysterious. Using the profound mysteries of the world, he was able to control the world so that an illusion would safeguard the location of his cave and allow the Saint Ruler to escape detection. In fact, the illusion array he put up was far too strong for even him to break. 100 years ago, this old man went to the cave to pay my respects to the predecessor, but his body had long since withered away to becoming a skeleton. Sire has entered the cave of the Saint Ruler? Jian Chen was startled before growing serious. He wanted that Saint Ruler's skeleton. This old man cultivates a method that can see the origin of everything. While the illusion array that predecessor put up is strong, it has no effect on me. With just a small amount of effort, I would be able to enter. But the items inside, I have never touched. The pure heart secrets doesn't allow me to be tempted by such things. So the wonders and treasures that lay in there may as well be sands and stone to me. Jian Chen let out a sigh in relief. Would it be possible for Sire to tell me where that cave would be? About 50 kilometers south from here, the cave lies at the bottom of a great valley. Tian Shuzi did not hide any details from Jian Chen and told him the exact coordinates. Many thanks for the information, Sire. Jian Chen spoke gratefully. That won't be necessary. Even if this old man didn't tell you, you would be able to find the cave after a small amount of effort. However, the cave is protected by an extremely strong illusion array. Only Saint Rulers would be able to enter it. Tian Shuzi informed him. This one will remember that. Sire, this one still has some matters to take care of. I will be taking my leave first. Now that Jian Chen knew the location of the Saint Ruler's cave, he had lost his patience to stay here and quickly bid farewell to Tian Shuzi. Tian Shuzi watched Jian Chen fly away from his window, and when Jian Chen fully disappeared, he whispered to himself, what a truly outstanding genius. If he was able to become a Heaven Saint Master at such a young age, then he is truly one of the strongest individuals on the continent. At the very least, he'll be the second coming of Mo Tianyun. Perhaps I should report this to the master of the sect. If he is able to bring him close, then the pressure from the guardian clans will lessen by a large amount. The pressure from the beast god continent wouldn't be as stifling either. Chapter 464, Illusion Array, 3, Traveling in accordance to the directions given to him by Tian Shuzi of the Pure Heart Pavilion, Jian Chen finally arrived at a great valley with a deep bottom. Jian Chen slowly descended toward the bottom of the valley. Tian Shuzi had said that the cave would be at the bottom of the valley with its exact position hidden in a way that would be hard to detect. Quickly, Jian Chen arrived at the bottom of the valley. There was a giant pool that exuded a chilling frost that permeated his entire body and bones like daggers. Jian Chen looked around the dark place he was in. The visibility here was quite poor, but it was not significant enough to hamper Jian Chen, who could still see around himself. But the valley was so expansive that even his eyes could not see the entirety of the area it covered. Even more so, a chilling frost covered the area, making finding a foothold extremely difficult. This is already the deepest part of the valley. Where might the Saint Ruler's cave be? Jian Chen muttered to himself. When it came to the cave, he only knew the name, everything else was unknown to him. Even what the cave looked like was a mystery to him. Combined with the fact that it was hidden, finding the cave would be an extremely difficult challenge. Jian Chen began to spread his omnipresence about himself to cover a 15-kilometer area. Even the places beneath the water were not hidden from him as he searched the valley for any hidden places or things. Jian Chen followed the walls of the valley as he floated in the air. Wherever he traveled, his omnipresence covered the entire area in an attempt to continue searching. Within this area of Jian Chen's presence, even the smallest ripple of energy would not go unnoticed. Hua! Right underneath the pool of water, a single water snake came leaping out of the water. Opening its jaws, the water snake came flying at Jian Chen in an attempt to bite him at a lightning-fast speed. Jian Chen's eyebrows knit together. He had noticed the water snake before, but for the sake of searching for the Saint Ruler's cave, he had ignored it. Thus, he was now annoyed by the snake's interruption. A frosty glow appeared in Jian Chen's eyes as he clutched at the sky. Suddenly, a large amount of the fire element began to gather around his hand before condensing to instantly form a giant sword made of flames. With a brilliant flash of red light, it flew toward the snake. The fire sword shot straight into the open jaws of the snake, causing it to explode from the reaction that followed. Parts of its body blew off and dispelled the nearby frost vapor from the heat of the explosion. In an instant, the previously cold area grew nice and warm. With a single thought, Jian Chen forced a single fist-sized crystal stone to fly through the mist and right into his hand. This was a Class 5 monster core. Although it was not as important to him as before, it was still worth a considerable amount. Jian Chen continued to trek through the valley while growing closer and closer to the pool of water until he was just a mere 20 meters above it. The distance was so small that the mist that was rising up from it began to dampen Jian Chen's previously dry clothing. Although the valley was extremely vast, Jian Chen had only taken 2 hours to search the entire valley. What disappointed him was the fact that he had not yet discovered the cave of the Saint Ruler. Jian Chen hovered in midair with a contemplative look. Suddenly, he looked to the water beneath him. Could it be underwater? At that thought, he immediately plunged into the water. Just as Jian Chen's body approached the water, the surface of the water suddenly split apart in two. Without a sound, it formed a giant crack. Jian Chen continued to descend into the body of water without any of the water spilling a drop onto his body. Instead, the water formed a ring around Jian Chen. The water was about 500 meters at its deepest, so Jian Chen quickly reached the bottom of the water. The temperature of this area was even colder than the surface, forcing Jian Chen to give a sigh of annoyance. An Earth Saint Master would have absolutely no chance of surviving down here. The frosty air was that big of a danger. It was so dark that any regular person wouldn't even be able to see their own fingers, but thanks to Jian Chen's omnipresence, it bore no effect on him. As he moved, Jian Chen continued to scour every single inch of the area. Although Jian Chen had already used his omnipresence to search the area above and below the water, the areas at the bottommost parts of the water were incredibly strange. Not only was it cold beyond belief, but it could even dampen Jian Chen's omnipresence. Because of that, Jian Chen didn't dare think that his search above the water was accurate. There were all sorts of monsters living within the abyss of the waters. However, even the strongest of these creatures was only Class 5 at the most, therefore, they posed no threat to Jian Chen. Another 2 hours passed when Jian Chen had finished searching the entire area. However, like last time, there were no new discoveries or any clues to be seen. Flying out from the water, Jian Chen hovered over the surface of the chilly water with his eyebrows narrowed in concentration. He had originally thought that with his omnipresence, nothing would be able to escape his grasp and he would be able to pinpoint the Saint Ruler's cave without fail. But now that he had searched the entire place, Jian Chen had finally realized that the level of concealment the cave had was far stronger than he initially thought. Tian Shuzi said that the cave would be at the bottom of the valley. But why is it that after I've searched the entire place, I cannot find it? Jian Chen muttered in heavy concentration. Perhaps Tian Shuzi lied to me and the cave isn't located here. Perhaps this isn't the right valley he spoke of, meaning I am in the wrong place? All of a sudden, Jian Chen shot high into the air like an arrow, and floated overhead the valley. When he circled around the general area, he could not find a second valley. After some time, Jian Chen returned to his original position after looking 10 kilometers in the general area. There was only one valley. Returning to the bottom of the valley, Jian Chen looked at the chilly water deep in thought. The Saint Ruler's cave was truly too hidden for him to find. Now, Jian Chen was beginning to doubt whether or not if the cave was truly here. Master, Ziying knows where the cave you wish to find is. Suddenly, a single voice popped in Jian Chen's mind. The sword spirit Ziying had noticed the vexation Jian Chen was in and offered to help. Hearing this, Jian Chen revealed an overjoyed look on his face and immediately thought, Ziying, would you be able to tell me where the Saint Ruler's cave is? Yes, Master. The cave is protected by an array that separates it from the world. Master's omnipresence is far too weak to be able to detect the location. Ziying spoke. Ziying, please tell me just where the cave is located. Jian Chen could barely restrain the emotions flowing through to his face as he moved about impatiently. Chapter 465, Illusion Array, 4, Ziying, please tell me just where the cave is located. Jian Chen could barely restrain the emotions flowing through to his face as he moved about impatiently. Master, it is located 50 meters on the wall behind you. Ziying spoke. Hearing that, Jian Chen whirled around and walked to the location Ziying spoke of. There was a precipice where several weeds could be seen. From the outside, it looked rather normal and there was no cave that was visible. At the very least, Jian Chen couldn't sense anything strange from it. Master, there is an illusion array concealing the cave. If you attack the area and destroy the array, you'll be able to see the cave, Ziying told him. Jian Chen looked at the seemingly ordinary-looking wall with a curious expression. He couldn't believe that an illusion array would have such an amazing effect. Even with his eyes, he wasn't able to detect any abnormalities even with his omnipresence combing over it. Jian Chen swiped at the sky, causing the fire element in the world to gather and form a boiling hot fire sword. Shooting forward with his hand, Jian Chen struck the fire sword on the cliff wall. Bang! Following an extremely loud bang, the fire sword exploded against the cliff wall and filled the area with a burning hot heat wave. The temperature in the air soared as the flames evaporated the mist. Parts of the cliff had even broke off and splashed into the water below. After some time, the area cleared up and a single 3-meter hole became visible right in front of Jian Chen. However, nothing could be seen within it. Could it be that this is the Saint Ruler's cave? Jian Chen muttered. Using his omnipresence, he began to spread it inside the cave in an attempt to look inside. When his presence reached 5 meters in the cave, an unknown energy blocked it, preventing him from going any further. Master, there's still an illusion array guarding it. Ziying spoke to Jian Chen. The preventions put in place are quite strict. Jian Chen sighed. Back during the gathering of mercenaries, he had come across the cave of a Saint Ruler. However, that cave didn't have any protections as difficult as this one. It only had an unusually sturdy stone door blocking its path. The Saint Ruler's cave had provided an undeniable sense of enticement to Jian Chen. So without hesitation, he flew inside the jet-black cave and began to walk deeper in. Quickly, Jian Chen arrived at the illusion array that had blocked his omnipresence. Clutching his hand, the fire sword materialized in his hand once more. What left Jian Chen tongue-tied was the fact that when the sword drew close to the illusion array, it suddenly vanished without a trace. Master, this illusion array is borrowing the power of a space gate. Aside from attacks that are strong enough to bring the illusion array to its breaking point, it will not be destroyed. A feminine voice could be heard within his head. This time, it was Qingsua that spoke. Then what should I do? Jian Chen asked the sword spirit. This was the very first time he had come across an illusion array. He had never heard of such a thing before, so the existence of one was a complete mystery to him. He had no idea how to deal with it, causing him feel helpless. This illusion array borrows power from what a space gate is formed from. With the assistance of the world's power, the area within fluctuates and changes at will. It is also able to produce an endless amount of illusions to puzzle the eyes. But, it cannot attack. So, unless one comes across a saint ruler, this illusion array will cause anyone that enters it to be completely isolated from the world. Qingsua spoke. Jian Chen hesitated for a moment before asking, Qingsua, then do you have a method for dealing with this illusion array? Master, although Ziying and Qingsua have used up most of our energy to break the illusion array, we can still see through it. As long as Master follows what we say, we will be able to pass through the illusion array. Qingsua almost looked proud as she replied. That's fine. I will listen to your instructions. Since things had gotten to such a stage, Jian Chen placed all his hopes on the two sword spirits. Master, first walk into the illusion array. Qingsua started Jian Chen off. Jian Chen felt completely at ease with Ziying and Qingsua and had no qualms of harm befalling him. So without hesitation, he walked into the illusion array that would be able to isolate him and his omnipresence. As soon as he stepped across, it was as if he had crossed worlds. Jian Chen felt the scenery around him begin to distort as he discovered that he was now standing in a desert. The sun was beating down on him heavily with its harsh rays and the fine sand beneath him had started to bake his feet. It was as if he was standing on a burning red piece of metal. Master, this is all an illusion. The person behind this illusion had to rely on the power of the world to create it. Know that it's not real. Continue to walk forward slowly. Qingsua explained. Obeying her words, Jian Chen took a single step forward. Another step. Then, a third step. Finally, on his fourth step, the sands beneath his feet began to swirl around before forming a vortex that threatened to devour him whole. Quicksand. Jian Chen started. He subconsciously thought about using the energy of the world to force his way out before Qingsua and Ziying suddenly cried out to him. Master, don't fight it. Otherwise, you'll be transported to the outside by the power of the space gate. Ziying and Qingsua spoke at the same time. Hearing this, Jian Chen gave up any idea of resisting and allowed for the sand to submerge his body. It was pitch black underneath to the point where even Jian Chen couldn't tell east from west. He was better off with his eyes closed, since he wasn't able to distinguish anything. When he tried to use his omnipresence, he came to the realization that it was being forcibly suppressed, meaning he couldn't use it. Not too long after, Jian Chen felt himself finally stop descending through the ground. At the same time, his body was being pressed by something heavy. From this feeling, Jian Chen truly felt as if it were sand that was crushing him. Master, take a step to your left or right. Jian Chen closed his eyes and turned himself at an angle before walking one step forward. This single step seemed as if it had taken him thousands of kilometers to a completely different place. Even with his eyes closed, Jian Chen could clearly feel a stinging light radiating from the sky and the fragrant smell of flowers wafting through the air. Opening his eyes, Jian Chen realized he was now in a spectacular garden that was almost impossible to describe with words. It was almost like a paradise with all sorts of sweet-smelling things and a pool not too far away. The water in the lake was clear, and many fish could be seen swimming in it. Master, walk forward. Jian Chen began to walk forward before finally stopping by the side of the lake. Master, this is all fake. The things you are seeing are not real, there is no water in front of you, continue to move forward. What a magical illusion array, it seems completely real. Jian Chen sighed as he admired the illusion array's effects. Then, taking a step forward, he began to walk into the pool of water. When Jia Chen's foot touched the surface of the water, his body did not sink. It was almost as if he was floating. Jian Chen felt as if he were stepping on a thin piece of glass. Still following the sword spirit's instructions, Jian Chen continued to walk across the water until he arrived at the very center of the lake. Suddenly, the scenery around him began to spin and spin before the garden disappeared almost instantaneously, only to be replaced with a bottomless abyss right in front of Jian Chen's eyes. The world began to grow dim, there was no sun, and at the same time, there was no moonlight. It was as if he had stepped into the lands of hell, standing on the tip of the precipice. Right in front of him was an abyss with no bottom to be seen. Yet, a grotesque sound could be heard faintly, originating from down below. It was not unsimilar to a devil howling in a way that would terrify any listener. Continue to walk forward, Qingsuo spoke inside Jian Chen's mind. After hearing him, Jian Chen continued to listen to the sword spirit's instructions through all the different types of worlds the illusion array threw at him. From time to time, he would walk forward through the areas, backward, or even having to move left or right. After being tormented endlessly for an hour, Jian Chen finally walked through the completely mysterious illusion array. After exiting the illusion array, Jian Chen found himself within the dark belly of the mountain. It was spacious all around him with only a single wooden house to be seen in the desolate area. Ziying, Qingsuo, there shouldn't be any more illusions, correct? Jian Chen asked the sword spirits. The illusions had felt all too real to him to the point where Jian Chen could no longer distinguish between reality and delusions. This caused Jian Chen to doubt whether or not he was in reality. Master, we've exited from the illusion array. Whatever you see in front of you is real. Ziying spoke. Ziying's reply caused Jian Chen to relax and immediately revealed a smile on his face. After being thrown side to side for so long, he had finally arrived at his final destination. Quelling his excitement, Jian Chen stepped closer and closer to the wooden house in front of him. Just as Jian Chen exited from the illusion array, in the valley overhead, 5 bright lights could be seen flying toward the valley at an extremely fast speed. Finally, they came to a stop above the valley and looked down below. Among the 5, there were 4 elders and a middle-aged man. Each one wore a different color robe and had serious expressions on their faces. They also had a strong amount of power flicker off of their bodies. According to what that heaven saint master from the Qiangan kingdom said, the saint ruler's cave should be located here. 50 meters away from a precipice in a valley. This is the place. The middle-aged man spoke as he looked down. There's no differences between this place and the information we heard, this must be it. Let's go down and hope that the heaven saint master wasn't lying to us. The elder spoke calmly. Huh, Elder Feng, you think too much. That heaven saint master holds a special position within the Qiangan kingdom and was the king of the previous times. He wouldn't dare lie to us, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to handle the consequences. Besides, he did not tell our Huang family this secret without conditions. Another elder laughed. Chapter 466, Remnants of the Saint Ruler, that is true. I am still not sure who this person they wish for us to kill is. The newly named Elder Feng spoke. Who cares about his identity? Once we take the items from the cave, we will head over to the Jessen kingdom. I am sure we will be able to find that heaven saint master quickly. After saying that, the 5 heaven saint masters began to descend down into the valley. Soon enough, they hovered 50 meters above the chilly waters and started to inspect the place. Take a look here, there's a cave. An elder pointed in a certain direction in amazement. Turning to look at the pointed direction, they discovered that there was a cave around 3 meters tall with a pitch-dark entrance. Would it really be over there? Let's take a look. The 5 men simultaneously began to fly over to the entrance of the cave, arriving in the blink of an eye. Their surroundings were emitting a fierce energy that dragged them through the air. Do you sense that? The space here has a faint trace of the fire element. An elder stated with a frown. Seeing the others agree with him, an elder whose body radiated with the fire element spoke as well. That's correct, the fire element is indeed floating around this area. While it is quite faint, I can still sense it clearly. I suspect there was another person here not too long ago. The scratches around the cave entrance are fresh as well. Someone has indeed beaten us to this place first. There aren't many that know of this cave. If we're going off of what the Qiangan Kingdom's expert said, then there is a powerful illusion array concealing the cave. If we didn't know the definite position, we would have never been able to discover the secret of the area. Unfortunately, just several days ago, the cave of the Saint Ruler was revealed to the individual from the Jessan Kingdom. It appears that the one who beat us here is undoubtedly that same person. When you say it that way, I agree with you. Now that that person is here, we won't need to waste any energy traveling to the Jessan Kingdom. We can just kill him here and accomplish the condition the Qiangan Kingdom expert had stipulated onto us. Very well then. Instead of entering the cave, the five continued to float where they were and began to chat. Since that man is already inside, we just have to wait outside. This way, we won't waste any energy dealing with the illusion array inside. If he is defeated by the array, then he'll be sent outside. If he overpowers the array, he'll still come back here eventually, giving us the chance to kill him. We can take the remnants of the Saint Ruler from him, it would save us all some energy. Within the hollowed-out belly of the mountain was the cave of the Saint Ruler. It was quite dim and the air was damp with only several dozen night pearls serving as faint light sources within the dark area. There weren't any trees or grass in the cave, and aside from the illusion array and the wooden house, there was absolutely nothing else. From this, it could be inferred that the owner of the cave did not care for the environment and instead, only cared for the sake of his own cultivation. Jian Chen walked to the wooden house and began to look over it. The entire house was a dark color and felt as solid as tempered iron. Furthermore, he could sense that there was a considerable amount of energy flowing within the house. This energy clearly belonged to the existence that had lived within it for almost an eternity. At the very least, this house had stood for 1,000 years through the corrosion of time, yet still remained in good condition. Jian Chen looked at the wooden house with confused eyes before gradually growing serious. After all, this was where a Saint Ruler expert had lived. Although Jian Chen was a Heaven Saint Master in strength, a Saint Ruler would still bring an unbelievable amount of pressure onto him. A Heaven Saint Master understood the energy of the world, that was the reason why they were so different from an Earth Saint Master. A Saint Ruler had already understood the mysteries of the world and could borrow their assistance of the world's power to create illusions that were hard to distinguish. Their strengths were such that they were many times greater than a Heaven Saint Master's. The difference between a Heaven Saint Master and a Saint Ruler was even larger than that of an Earth Saint Master and a Heaven Saint Master. The two ranks were worlds apart and could not be discussed together. Standing right outside the dark house, Jian Chen let out a sigh. Calming his heart of any emotions, he brought both his hands onto the ice-cold door and slowly pushed it open with all his strength. With a creaking sound, the doors began to open. The scenery inside appeared before Jian Chen's eyes. The very first thing that was visible to Jian Chen was a bed fashioned from iron along with a wooden table and a chair. From this, it could be seen that aside from the master of the house, there were no other guests. Inside the wooden house was a large abundance of energy that never seemed to fade. However, without entering the house, the existence of this massive energy would not be found. Perhaps it was because of this energy's existence that the inside of the house was extremely clean, as if someone swept it every day. Jian Chen walked into the wooden house and scanned around. It was rather ordinary looking, its simplicity was not like that of a normal person's home. Aside from the table, chair, and bed, there was nothing else there. This house didn't have just one room, the place Jian Chen was blankly standing in right now was only the living room. In one of the corners, there was a single doorway that connected deeper into the house. Gingerly, Jian Chen walked inside the house. But the moment he pushed open the door, a surge of energy diffused outwards, the pressure making Jian Chen's body grow heavier as if he was carrying a large and heavy stone on his back. Under the tremendous pressure of this weight, Jian Chen felt as if he was a small sailboat in the ocean, insignificant and unable to defend himself. Jian Chen looked forward only to see a crystalline skeleton sitting in a cross-legged position on the bed. The energy from this saint ruler was many times stronger than the amount of energy he had felt back in the gathering of the mercenaries. The mere aftermath of the first layer of released energy made Jian Chen feel an extremely great pressure. One wouldn't think that this was the cause of a skeleton. It seems that he had not yet reached the 9th layer when he was alive. Jian Chen muttered. In his heart, he was excited. Although it was only a skeleton, the energy within it was no weaker than a ruler armament. That to him was already a major profit, since the skeleton would be able to be processed for chaotic force through the sword spirits. This way, he would be able to use the chaotic force one day. Carefully walking up to the skeleton, which was still radiating pressure, Jian Chen slowly placed the skeleton into his space ring. After the Saint Ruler's skeleton had disappeared, the remaining pressure that was weighing down on him instantly disappeared without a trace. After successfully obtaining the Saint Ruler's skeleton, Jian Chen's heart couldn't help but beat rapidly in extreme excitement. No matter if it was the Saint Ruler's skeleton or ruler armament, it was still a priceless, rarely seen treasure on the Tianyuan continent. If someone were to grab hold of either one, then they would be able to ascend to even the heavens. A mediocre clan would rise up to become a great clan overnight. As for ruler armaments, they were viewed and kept as treasures passed down the clan members. Thus, it could be inferred that a ruler armament was no weaker than a saint ruler's skeleton. It had a high value as a treasure. After all, something like this could only be left behind by a saint ruler who had died. Afterward, Jian Chen discovered a silver space ring besides the empty spot where the skeleton used to be. The space ring didn't contain many things, most of them were hoarded items. But after rifling through it, Jian Chen found a single ancient scroll. The scroll was 2 meters in length and was yellow with age. However, it was still in perfect condition without any damage. Written on the scroll weighs plenty of words the size of tadpoles with just as many diagrams. Breathless, Jian Chen began to study the inner contents of the scroll with a face that revealed his excitement completely. This was a heaven-tier battle skill, a middle heaven-tier battle skill at that. Heaven Splitter. It used a strange method to circulate the saint force from within, compressing it. It could then be brought forth as an explosive energy to assault the enemies. Its range was quite expansive and could be controlled manually. Heaven Splitter was much different from any of the heaven-tier battle skills Jian Chen was familiar with. All of the heaven-tier battle skills Jian Chen knew of used saint weapons as their medium and burst out with powerful energy to assault their enemies. However, with the Heaven Splitter, one could use both hands to send out saint force to perform a ranged attack on the enemy as the user desired. Secondly, the ancient scroll mentioned that if a first cycle Heaven Saint Master were to use Heaven Splitter, they would be able to easily destroy a mountain several hundred meters tall. From this, it could be determined that the battle skill was extremely strong. Jian Chen quelled the emotions raging within him as he put the Heaven Splitter scroll into his space ring. In his mind, he decided that the very first thing he would do when he returned home would be to give Heaven Splitter to Chang Wuji to learn. That was because Chang Wuji was the only Heaven Saint Master of the Changyang clan. Having him learn it couldn't be more fitting. Plus, Chang Wuji had always been concerned with him and had silently served and protected the Changyang clan for many years. As for the others that he was familiar with, Jian Chen would have to think about them another time. Changyang Ba's strength was still only at the Great Saint Master level, so he couldn't learn a Heaven-tier battle skill. One had to at least be an Earth Saint Master to learn a Heaven-tier battle skill. Aside from Heaven Splitter, Jian Chen had also discovered a Heaven-tier cultivation method. Although it was Heaven-tiered, cultivation methods were mediocre in comparison to battle skills. Both the Changyang clan and Kargath Academy each had one. Despite that, Jian Chen didn't ignore it, since a powerful clan definitely wouldn't have just one type of cultivation method. Chapter 467, meeting elders Feng and Yun once more. Aside from Heaven Splitter, Jian Chen had also discovered a Heaven Tier cultivation method. Although it was also Heaven Tier, cultivation methods were mediocre in comparison to battle skills. Both the Changyang clan and Kargath Academy each had one. Despite that, Jian Chen hadn't ignored the cultivation method, since a powerful clan wouldn't have just one type of cultivation method. People could only learn a single cultivation method, but when it came to the power of a clan, it was best to have more than one to choose from. After all, not every cultivation method was suitable for everyone. There weren't many valuable things in the space ring left behind by the Saint Ruler. Not a single monster core or coin could be seen. They were probably left behind in the Qiangan kingdom. Aside from the Heaven Tier battle skill and cultivation method, there wasn't any other item that interested Jian Chen. After he finished looking through the contents of the space ring, Jian Chen searched the entire house once more. But in the end, he didn't find anything out of the ordinary. However, he did find that after he had taken the Saint Ruler's skeleton, the energy that was accumulated within the house had disappeared. Although this house had been created from wood and steel, it would be impossible to stay within this damp cave forever. Without the Saint Ruler skeleton's energy backing it up, the moment the energy assimilated in the house was drained off, the 1,000-year-old house would disappear from the world. Afterward, Jian Chen did one more sweep of the entire place. As there were still no profits to be found, he left the place. Leaving the area was much easier than entering it. The very moment he stepped into the illusion array, he felt the space within tremble before he was directly sent to the 3-meter in diameter, pitch-black passageway. Jian Chen took a deep breath before walking outside with a faint smile. In his heart, he thought, as expected, the Qiangan kingdom didn't lie to me. There was truly a fully intact Saint Ruler's cave. Not only did I gain a Saint Ruler's skeleton containing great amounts of energy, I was able to receive a Heaven Tier battle skill and cultivation method. A bright light appeared in Jian Chen's line of vision. He quickly walked out of Saint Ruler's cave, arriving above the frigid lake at the bottom of the chilly valley. Just then, Jian Chen's expression suddenly changed. A light flared in his eyes, followed by a flash of pale cyan, as his body shifted 5 meters to the side. Whoosh! 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 5 ear-splitting sounds could be heard as 5 different strikes of sword chi came flying forward to bombard the spot Jian Chen had just stood in. The sword chi thundered down towards the center of the frigid lake, causing splashes everywhere. Jian Chen's face grew extremely unsightly. He abruptly lifted his head only to see that at some point, 5 figures had appeared above him. The 5 attacks just now had been sent out by them. The wind elements around Jian Chen's body suddenly became extremely powerful. His body shot up through the air like an arrow leaving a mystical bow. "Don't let him get away!" one of the 5 men had cried out. The 5 of them immediately formed a ring in the air to form a blockade in an attempt to seal off all of Jian Chen's possible escape paths. At the same time, 5 sword chi strikes were shot towards Jian Chen once more. Jian Chen's eyes revealed a bright glow as 5 separate swords made of fire formed around his chest. Then, they transformed into 5 furious dragons radiating intense, scorching heat that collided with the sword chi. Bang! The sky burst out with a fierce explosive boom as the energy from the fire elements filled the entire sky and valley. The aftermath of the explosion rebounded off both the walls of the valley and fractured them into multiple spiderweb-like cracks. This continued to repeat until the cliff faces on both sides had countless large and thick cracks in them. The entire valley shuddered under the blow, causing several stones to fall off and drop into the cold waters below. Jian Chen charged upwards from below the cliff, not running away like the 5 Heaven Saint Masters had thought he would. Instead, he floated up to an equal level with them. "Who are you?" Jian Chen asked in a low voice. His eyes glowed brightly with a fierce killing intent toward the 5 as his gaze swept past the. However, when he looked to 2 of the men in the middle, his eyes suddenly widened with some shock. Jian Chen's mind suddenly thought back to several years ago right in front of Wake City. He had been washing himself carelessly when he had come across Huang Luan. Afterward, he had fought with the two strong individuals Huang Luan had called Uncle Feng and Uncle Yun. Weren't these two men right in front of him the same men from long ago? Despite the time that had passed since then, Jian Chen could still recognize them. "It's you. So it's you." The moment when Jian Chen had recognized the two elders recognized him as well. With their eyes largening in surprise, shock began to register across their faces. The other three men took notice of the shock on their faces. One of them quickly asked, "Elder Feng, Elder Yun, do you two know him?" Neither of the elders seemed to have heard the question and continued to look at Jian Chen. With a quavering voice, one spoke, You stepped into the realm of the Heaven Saint Masters." At that moment, both of the elders' hearts were storming with emotions. When it came to Jian Chen, they were no stranger to him and had a deep impression of him. Because of their negligence in Wake City, a mere great saint had been able to steal a glance at their Huang Luan bathing. Their precious Huang Luan had been seen by a man for the very first time, and when they had struck out at Jian Chen, they had been injured by his azure and violet sword spirits. This had greatly shocked them. Afterward, during the gathering of the mercenaries half a year ago, they'd seen Jian Chen's display at the arena. At that time, it was extremely shocking to them. Before that time, Jian Chen had only been a great saint. They hadn't thought that in 4 years of time, Jian Chen would have risen at an unbelievable rate and become an Earth Saint Master. This type of strength was practically unheard of before. Plus, they had also heard from Huang Luan that Jian Chen had been tried during the gathering of the mercenaries. When the Solunar Bao of the Huang clan had nearly been stolen by the Shi family, it had been because of Jian Chen that the Solunar Bao had been preserved at the very last moment. Thus, Jian Chen had earned the ire of the powerful Shi family. And now, half a year later, Jian Chen had unexpectedly skyrocketed from being an Earth Saint Master to a Heaven Saint Master. An unbelievable speed like this left the two elders tongue-tied and heavy-hearted. "Elder Feng, Elder Yun, who is he? Do you two know him?" another person asked. The elders gave a sigh before slowly steeling their nerves. "He is Jian Chen, the very same Jian Chen that earned the #1 spot in the gathering of the mercenaries." "What? He is Jian Chen?" Hearing that, the other three men revealed looks of shock as they again shifted their gazes back at Jian Chen. Those who participated within the gathering of the mercenaries had to be below 50 years old in age. If Jian Chen had participated in that, then he was no doubt younger than that. By this point, it had only been half a year since the gathering of the mercenaries. Having said that, this meant that the youth in front of them had reached the Heaven Saint Master realm before the age of 50. Within the Tianyuan continent, a progress speed as fast as this could only mean that he was an unparalleled genius. "Jian Chen, why are you here?" Elder Yun asked in surprise. Jian Chen stared at everyone with a blank expression. Such a phrase like that should be asked by me. "Why are you here, and why act against me just now?" Hearing this, Elder Yun's gaze moved to the entrance of the Saint Ruler's cave with a twinkling light. He quickly connected the dots, quietly spoke with a heavy expression. "I hadn't imagined that the person the Qiangan Kingdom's Heaven Saint Master had been talking about was Jian Chen." Although the elder had spoken in a soft voice, Jian Chen had heard it clearly. His eyes began to blaze with a fearsome glare as he asked, "Did Qian Yun tell you the location of the Saint Ruler's cave?" "Correct, a Heaven Saint Master from the Qiangan Kingdom had told us about the Saint Ruler's cave. In exchange, he told us to take the life of a certain person." The middle-aged man spoke without expression, but his gaze held a hint of a cold light as he looked at Jian Chen. Jian Chen's mouth quirked to form a cold smile as his glare dropped several degrees. "I didn't think that the Qiangan Kingdom would deal such a hand. If they want you to kill someone, it is surely me." "Correct. The same middle-aged man expressionlessly replied. Jian Chen looked at that man and asked, "Now that I am here, what will you do now?" Anger filled the man's heart. He coldly snorted and said, "The promises our Huang family make must be fulfilled. No matter who you are, you will not leave today." "No." Elder Yun and Elder Feng cried out, "Jian Chen has been a benefactor to our Huang family. If not for him, our Solunar Bao would have been stolen by the Shi family. Furthermore, he has saved the life of our young miss." Elder Yun, that is only the miss side of the story. We don't know what happened in that isolated space during the tournament, or we cannot differentiate between falsity and truth. Who knows whether or not the young miss words are true? The middle-aged man fired back in argument. "Then surely Shi Xiangran's death must be true to you." Elder Feng replied, clearly on Jian Chen's side. "And what can Shi Xiangran's death prove? It doesn't say for sure whether there were personal feelings of gratitude or resentment between Jian Chen and Shi Xiangran." The man justified. The two elders glanced at each other, the expressions turning extremely ugly. After realizing that their target was Jian Chen, the two had a change of plans. Even if they were to brave the aftermath of damaging their clan's reputation, they didn't wish to make a move against Jian Chen. Not only was he a genius, but he had been a benefactor to their family. This was more than enough for the two elders to do so. Furthermore, he and Huang Luan had a strange sort of connection between them. However, their wishes did not speak for the entire group. The middle-aged man's attitude, in particular, made it hard for them to act. Chapter 468, Retreat of the Huang family. At that moment, one of the other elders observing the situation spoke, "Jian Chen, when you entered the Saint Ruler's cave, did you take any of the items in there?" "Correct, I've taken the items within." Jian Chen didn't hesitate to speak without any complaint. Although he was against 5 Heaven Saint Masters, he wasn't afraid. "Then there's nothing else worth talking about. Everyone, let us kill him for the sake of our mission. The reputation of our Huang family cannot be harmed by something like this. Otherwise, if our patriarch finds fault, who will take the blame?" One of the men spoke. At the mention of their patriarch, the other 4 men showed startled looks on their faces. They must be afraid of him. Absolutely not. Jian Chen is a friend to our Huang family. If you continue to act in such a way, then the patriarch will definitely find fault within us. Our Huang family is not a family that would commit such an ingratitude to a friend. Elder Feng spoke harshly. "I agree. The Solunar Bao is extremely vital to our Huang family. Our patriarch personally bore witness to the gathering of the mercenaries and had even inquired the young miss for her side of the story. I'm sure that the young miss has already explained everything in detail to Jaime. If not for Jian Chen's help, our Huang family would not have the Solunar Bao anymore. It is for that reason that Jian Chen is our benefactor. If you wish to continue to fulfill the mission from the Qiangan kingdom, then our Huang family will truly be known as one who violates justice. Our patriarch would not forgive us for this. Elder Yun, Elder Feng, you two need not try to frighten me. I've already said before, the young miss may not be speaking the truth." The middle-aged man asserted his thoughts without relenting. "Huang Junran, Huang He, what are your thoughts on this matter?" Elder Feng asked the 2 other impartial men. The 2 elders went silent for a moment before Huang Junran spoke up. "Elder Feng, Elder Yun, Elder Yen, the 3 of you speak with reason, but the items within the Saint Ruler's cave are of extreme importance to us and thus we cannot afford to let them go. Jian Chen, how about this? You give us the items you found in the cave and we will not make things difficult for you. We don't require much, just the Saint Ruler's skeleton will do. A single Saint Ruler's skeleton at the 5th layer is something that our patriarch has a great use for." Elder Huang He spoke. If they could bring back the skeleton, the strength of their patriarch would increase several times over, while the rest of the items in it were essentially dispensable. Their Huang family had a clear idea of how strong the saint ruler who had lived in the cave along with what his identity was, so they didn't think that there would be any other item worth their notice. Hearing these two speak, Jian Chen gave a cold smile. You should give up on such a notion. The skeleton of the saint ruler will not be given to you. Jian Chen, you should learn to accept a toast when it is given to you. Don't think that becoming the king of mercenaries has given you power beyond belief. To the Huang family, if we want to kill you, it would be as easy as squashing an ant. The middle-aged man spoke dangerously. Jian Chen's face grew dark as the sheen in his eyes grew colder. With a terrifying and malicious glare, Jian Chen spoke to the middle-aged man. Then do you think that I, Jian Chen, will kill you with the very same ease of stepping on an ant? How shameful, you will die here. The man's temper was clearly quite bad. He became infuriated by Jian Chen's stinging remarks. Immediately, he brought out his saint weapon and charged at Jian Chen. Jian Chen's hand clutched at the empty air, causing a sword made of the fire element to materialize. With a wave of his hand, the sword immediately shot toward the middle-aged man with a sweltering temperature. With a loud shout, the man's saint weapon came crashing down on the fire sword, causing an explosion. The fire sword was instantly disintegrated by the man's saint weapon and gave a final burst of fire that dyed the area red. The middle-aged man did not falter in speed. His saint force continued to protect his body from the sea of flames as he quickly arrived in front of Jian Chen. His sword was ready to pierce Jian Chen's chest. A layer of azure and violet light began to appear in Jian Chen's right hand before forming a 1.3-meter-long glow. Grasping the origin energy of the sword spirits, Jian Chen clashed weapons with the middle-aged man. There was a crisp sound as the middle-aged man's saint weapon chipped away to reveal a jagged piece of the saint weapon fall to the ground. With his saint weapon damaged, the middle-aged man's face suddenly blanched. A moment later, blood splattered out from his mouth. Hurriedly flying backward, the man looked at Jian Chen in utter surprise. The moment when the two men had clashed was observed by the four other men. When the middle-aged man's sword tip had broke off, the other four couldn't help but feel their hearts leap widely. The startling azure and violet glows of light in Jian Chen's hand were of an unknown energy to everyone. The middle-aged man flew 30 meters backward through the air before stabilizing himself. His pale face looked to the azure and violet ray of light in Jian Chen's hand before crying out, "What is that energy? Why is it so strong?" Jian Chen stared emotionlessly at the middle-aged man before speaking. Fact of the matter is, if I wanted to kill you, it would be as easy as stomping on an ant. Right now, you have no chance of taking the saint ruler's skeleton from me. Despite being from the Huang family, the middle-aged man was trying to humiliate Jian Chen. There was no way he would easily forgive him. The middle-aged man had a sickening color to his face, but soon enough he looked back at Jian Chen with a renewed expression of fury. The saint ruler's skeleton is extremely important to our patriarch. We cannot just let it go. Elders, let us three fight together to kill him. Huang Junran and Huang He hesitated for a moment. In the previous moment, they hadn't thought of Jian Chen as anyone important. Although Jian Chen was a heaven saint master, he was not a major threat to the Huang family. However, now that they had personally bore witness to Jian Chen's origin energy and its might, they could no longer look at Jian Chen in the same light as before. The origin energy of the azure and violet sword spirits could easily damage a heaven saint master's saint weapon. That was an ultimate threat to their life. The tremendous power that Jian Chen controlled in his hand was enough for them want to not offend him or even go against him as an enemy. Fellow elders, what are you hesitating about? Could it be that you don't realize just how important the saint ruler's skeleton is for our patriarch? The middle-aged man urged them. He didn't dare fight Jian Chen by himself. With that origin energy of Jian Chen, he was completely afraid of fighting him. Elder Yen, I think that this matter should be discussed with the patriarch. Elder Yun and Elder Feng are correct in their words. Jian Chen has done a favor for our Huang family, we cannot conduct such a behavior toward him like this. Huang Junran suddenly spoke, clearly not willing to be an enemy of Jian Chen's. And, that is right. I have that notion as well. Huang He spoke. The middle-aged man, now named Elder Yen, had a disbelieving look on his face as he stared at the two elders. He quickly realized that both elders had a change of plans and he instantly swallowed the fury in his unwilling heart. If the two elders did not fight with him as a three-man party against Jian Chen, there was no chance to win. If they didn't join him and he continued to fight alone, then he would be no opponent for Jian Chen. In the end, he would be the only one to eat a loss. Jian Chen, I, Yen Lai, will remember this. The man spat out. With that, he didn't even address the other four elders and quickly turned to leave the area. Huang Junran and Huang He left the area as well without a word, leaving both Elder Yun and Elder Feng behind. Both elders gave Jian Chen a complicated look for a moment, before Elder Feng spoke. Jian Chen, ever since your participation at the gathering of the mercenaries, the young miss has grown quite silent. Sometimes, she has a faraway stare in her eyes. AI, if you have time, please come visit our Huang family. Whatever transpired in the isolated space is something our entire family wishes to know about. Our family leader and patriarch especially wish to thank you. If there is time in the future, I will most certainly come pay a visit. Jian Chen cupped his hands together. Elder Yun let out a sigh of relief before offering an apology. Jian Chen, the matter from a few years ago was our fault. The two of us wish to offer our apologies in hope that you will forgive us. Jian Chen gave a free smile as he spoke. If we speak of that matter, then it was my fault. The unhappiness between Huang Luan and I has been resolved during our time in the isolated space. The two elders needn't worry. Hearing this, both elders had a happy smile on their faces. Jian Chen, my friend, we must return home now, so we bid you goodbye. We will definitely make sure to report this to our patriarch and avoid having Elder Yen Lai make matters worse. Jian Chen laughed as he brought his hands together. Then if the elders could please give Miss Huang Luan my greetings. Ha ha ha, Jian Chen my friend, these words I will definitely convey to her. One of the elders laughed. In the next moment, they both transformed into two bright light and disappeared into the sky. Watching the two elders go, Jian Chen had no thoughts of retaliating against the Huang family. Not only did he have a connection with Huang Luan, but the Huang family was quite strong in power, and even Jian Chen feared them at this moment. This was because the Huang family had a saint ruler which would pose a problem to Jian Chen. In an instant, Jian Chen's face took on a freezing cold glare as his eyes began to flash with killing intent. Qiangan Kingdom, you truly do scheme so sinisterly. Fine, I will play along with you. He muttered. Chapter 469, Retaliation from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. Qiangan Kingdom, although I was able to obtain the Saint Ruler's skeleton, you have found trouble with me. I no longer need to abide by our earlier agreement. Wait and see, when I have time, I will visit again to merit out fairness. Jian Chen muttered under his breath as he floated in the air. At the same time, he felt worried about the Huang family. Although he had once helped Huang Luan, the skeleton of a saint ruler wasn't beneath a ruler armament in rarity and value. Whether or not the patriarch of the Huang family would trouble him for the skeleton, Jian Chen didn't know. All he knew was that the skeleton was indeed a great boon for the patriarch if he had gotten it. However, as an imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom, Jian Chen held a certain amount of power over even the greatest of clans on the continent. Even the patriarch of the Huang family would presumably avoid overstepping his boundaries to deal with Jian Chen. It seems that being able to use the chaotic force is even more important than ever. This way, I will have a weapon to use against those of the Saint Ruler level. Jian Chen muttered in resolute determination. After he returned, he would refine the energy within the Saint Ruler's skeleton straight away. Transforming into a jet of azure and violet light, Jian Chen flew off in the direction of the Jessan Kingdom before ultimately disappearing into the horizon. At the same time in the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, a single squadron had entered the Imperial Palace. All the guards had knelt on both sides as a polite gesture of welcoming. After several days of traveling, the second prince and the prime minister had finally returned to the Imperial Palace of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. The very moment they had entered the palace, the travel-weary second prince and prime minister instantly dismounted from their horses and walked straight for the halls to report to the king. Notified of their arrival to the large halls for a discussion within the palace, the king had sat in his throne. On both sides, 20 armored experts stood without moving, looking more like statues than humans. Each one of them was stony-faced, but their eyes emitted a sharp contrast. The second prince and prime minister walked into the palace. When they saw the king sitting high above upon his throne, they immediately knelt down in subservience. Your servant pays his respect to his majesty. Your child pays his respects to his majesty. Taking the teacup offered to him by the nearby maid, the king smiled. Let's skip the formalities. My son, Prime Minister, has our proposal with the Jessan Kingdom gone smoothly? Father, the Jessan Kingdom is far too insolent. Not only do they see themselves as higher than everyone else, but they do not even see our Heavenly Eagle Kingdom as above them. Not only did they injure Senior Georgian, we were barely able to escape from the Imperial Palace. The second prince immediately told the king what had transpired in the Jessan Kingdom and had added his own details to it to make it seem even worse. Hearing the second prince speak, the king's smile slowly began to grow darker and darker until he looked to the prime minister and asked slowly, Prime Minister, is what my son says true? Has the Jessan Kingdom acted in such a way? Your Majesty, the second prince speaks truly. The Jessan Kingdom has without a doubt placed our Heavenly Eagle Kingdom beneath them. Furthermore, Georgian was indeed injured by them and they were just about to take us in forever. The Prime Minister spoke respectfully. What bullies they are! The king roared angrily as his hand slapped the armrest of his throne. Men! Call for Senior Georgian. Yes. A guard immediately ran off. Quickly, the pale-faced Georgian came running into the hall and knelt before the king. Are you fine, Georgian? The king asked in concern. When it came to Heaven Saint Masters, he had to make sure to treat them well. Georgian nodded his head. Given some time, I will heal. With that, the king listened to Georgian give his explanation. Although there were slight deviations to what the second prince and prime minister said, the main points were still the same. It was these main points that caused the king of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom to take on a nasty expression. You there, bring 1,000-year ginseng from my personal collection. The king commanded to one of the palace maids. Yes, your majesty. The maid obeyed before leaving. Senior Georgian, not too long ago, I received 1,000-year-old ginseng. I present this to you in hopes of a speedy recovery. As for the matter with the Jessan Kingdom, this king will make sure justice is made. When the Jessan Kingdom was mentioned, the king's eyes flashed dangerously. Georgian smiled, Thank you your majesty for your concern. However, the one called Changyang Xiangtian of the Jessan Kingdom must be treated with care. He is not only a genius among geniuses, but he wields an incredibly powerful energy that can damage the saint weapons of even a Heaven Saint Master. It was because of this power that I was injured. Then there is even more reason to kill him. Otherwise, our Heavenly Eagle Kingdom will have a powerful threat in the future. The king spoke. After Georgian left, the king returned to his throne and looked down at the two subjects still kneeling before him. With a royal air befitting that of the king, he spoke, Prime Minister Che, have you made certain of the relationship between the Jessan Kingdom and the Qinhuang Kingdom? Your Majesty, your servant has investigated the matter. As the king has imagined, the relationship between the two kingdoms isn't close at all. By the time I arrived at the imperial palace, the imperial advisors had already left. After my talks with the Jessan Kingdom's king, I speculate that even the king himself does not know what brought the Qinhuang Kingdom to help them. Humph, is that it? The Heavenly Eagle Kingdom's king let out a smile. It seems that our biggest worry would be that Chongyang Xiangtian then. If he was able to become a Heaven Saint Master at such an age and have some sort of powerful ability to damage a Heaven Saint Master's saint weapon, that cannot be let to stand. It is unfortunate that he is not from our Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. Fine, you two must be tired from your travels, go and rest up. The rest, I will take care of. Yes, Your Majesty. Half a day later, 8 Heaven Saint Masters had been gathered within the depths of the imperial palace of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. After talking for an hour, they all left, but 2 additional people had joined their ranks to make a total of 10. 2 days later, the air within the imperial palace was different than before. The black armors continued to patrol the entire palace while the king himself strolled around it in an extremely pleasant mood. At the current moment, he was playing chess with Yi Ming. He was no longer worried about the future development of the Jessan Kingdom. That was because there was now an incredible strong mountain of a power backing up the entire kingdom. Bang! Suddenly, a large explosion rocked the entire palace, causing it to shudder. A bright red light could be seen as it filled the entire place and sent rubble flying everywhere. Chapter 470, Calamity at the Palace. While playing chess within the garden with Yi Ming, the king was startled to hear an explosive sound ring out. Straight away, the both of them flew up from their seats and looked in the direction of the palace. What has happened? The king asked with narrowed eyebrows. When he saw the fiery light flash over the sky, he instantly realized something bad had happened. Yi Ming stared in that direction with confusion for a moment before a change of expression washed over his face. Not good, there's a mishap going on. With that, Yi Ming's body instantaneously disappeared as he flew toward the palace at high speeds. Right at the location of the palace gates, the previously grand-looking palace walls had crumbled to mere rubble that lay strewn across the ground. About 20 bloody soldiers could be seen unconscious around the rubble, but whether they were alive or not remained to be seen. The azure-colored marble that paved the ground had burned remains from the fierce fire that had flashed over it, making the entire place as hot as the inside of a steamer basket. Above the broken city walls, 10 men wearing different colored clothing could be seen floating 20 meters in the sky. Each one of them were Heaven Saint Masters and observed the sight below them with an icy stare. The commotion in the area caused all of the guards within the palace to come running along with the experts to this part. But whenever someone arrived and saw the 10 experts floating up above them, each one of them grew extremely pale in the face. God damn, those are Heaven Saint Masters. Sound the alarm, the enemies are here. An Earth Saint Master cried out an order with quivering lips. 10 Saint Masters was a number that the Jessan Kingdom would find hard to repel. Dong! 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 The sounds of several battle drums could be heard soon enough, with their sounds reverberating through the air and throughout the palace. This alarm was the highest level alarm that hadn't been heard for more than a few dozen years. In the case that it was rung, it meant that the palace was in immediate danger of an extremely large threat. It was an alarm that forced everyone to put down whatever they were doing and defend the palace against the enemy. The alarm caused every single soldier and any other expert not yet there to be startled into disbelief. Quickly, they gathered themselves up and immediately headed for the palace gates to see what had happened. A single large source of energy could be felt from within the palace as the water-attributed Yi Ming came flying forward. In an instant, he came to a stop right in front of the palace gates. Staring hard at the 10 Heaven Saint Masters, his concentration was focused solely on them and not on the broken rubble beneath him. "Who are you?" Yi Ming asked. Among the 10, a single rich-dressed elder laughed coldly. "We are from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom." Bring out the princess of the Jessen kingdom as well as the one called Changyang Xiangtian right away. It would be best if you don't force us to look for them ourselves, otherwise, the consequences for your kingdom would be far too dire to accept. The Heavenly Eagle Kingdom? So you dare to behave so atrociously toward our Jessen kingdom? You really take us to be a kingdom that is easily bullied. Yiming growled with an extremely serious expression. With there only being a single Heaven Saint Master at the Imperial Palace and the other people strewn about without power, there was no way for the Jessen kingdom to call on enough strength in such a short amount of time to withstand the 10 Heaven Saint Masters from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. You speak correctly. There has been nothing of any importance that our kingdom found to fear from your kingdom. Another red-wearing middle-aged man spoke with a look of disdain. Yiming gave a snort. As a single person, he was not afraid of the 10 in front of him. Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, if you don't wish to bring trouble upon your own head, you would do best to retreat. If not, then the Qinhuang Kingdom will not let this matter slide. Do you not understand the connection our two kingdoms have with each other? Pa, you bluff. Don't even bother trying to convince us that your Jessen Kingdom and the Qinhuang Kingdom have some sort of secret connection. We aren't 3-year-old children, we cannot be fooled that easily. An elder laughed. They had heard from the king of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom that there was no connection or friendship between the two kingdoms, so they weren't afraid of the power that the Qinhuang Kingdom held. Hurry up and call out the king and his daughter. Otherwise, your Jessen Kingdom's palace will be razed to the ground this very day. A suntanned elder spoke dangerously with eyes that seemed as if they could shoot lightning. By now, the imperial palace had already gathered 1,000 of the finest black armor soldiers. However, when they saw the 10 Heaven Saint Masters from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, they were stunned. A Heaven Saint Master was an entity that stood at the very top of the world. They weren't enemies that any one of the black armors could contend against. Despite having over 1,000 black armors, they were completely powerless in the face of these Heaven Saint Masters. By now, the king had finally appeared with several of the strongest black armors from the garden. Upon seeing the 10 floating Heaven Saint Masters, the king had a look of utmost concentration. However, his forward pace hadn't stopped for a moment and continued to walk with his head held high. One of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom noticed the king straight away and began to whisper to his comrades, "Take a look, that's the king of the Jessen Kingdom." The 10 Heaven Saint Masters from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom began to look at the king. Then, one of them nodded, "That should be him, let this old man take him." Then, that very same person flew down to the king. "Don't think you will get away with this." Yiming roared as he moved to block the elder. Without hesitation, he brought out his saint weapon and sent a furious slash of energy toward the incoming elder. With an icy glare of his own, the elder took out his own saint weapon to block Yiming. A battle to be won is a battle that is over quickly. By Lai, let us too help Elder Mo. Another elder immediately brought out his saint weapon to attack Yiming. The elder he had been talking to nodded his head and immediately entered the fray, making it a 3-on-1 battle. The strength of the 3 Heaven Saint Masters were by no means weaker than Yiming. One of the 3 had actually been a step higher than Yiming in strength. With it being 1 against 3, the pressure on Yiming was abnormally high. With 3 people focusing on him, it was very hard to dodge or even retaliate. After all, he was not on the same level of those from the Qinhuang Kingdom or Changwuji from the Jessen Kingdom. The 4 men continued to battle passionately. Each strike of their saint weapons led to a large amount of energy sloughing off of their weapons. It sounded like lightning striking from the 9th layer of the heavens. The large amount of energy was enough for the palace walls to be battered again and again, inflicting several serious blows to them. The imperial palace had already been thrown into disarray from all of this. With over 1,000 of the finest soldiers running amok, they seemed as if the sky above them was sending down a disaster. "Your Highness, please get away from here." The black armors guarding the king immediately gauged that the situation wasn't clearing up and immediately called for the king to escape into the palace depths. They all knew that against 10 Heaven Saint Masters, there was no way for them to stop them. The only solution here was to flee. One of the men from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom instantly noticed the black armors running away with the king. With a sneer, he spoke, "Pa, where do you think you're going? Do you take us as wall decorations and someone to ignore as you run away?" As he spoke, a strong amount of earth attributed saint force wrapped around his body and trailed behind him as he sped toward the king. One of the black armors grew startled and cried out, "They're chasing us. Take His Majesty and escape from here, I'll hold them off." "Yes, Captain." "Take care of yourself, Captain." Several black armors called out with serious faces. Their forward movement toward the palace hadn't stopped for a moment as they continued to escort the king with haste toward the imperial palace through a hidden passageway. The captain of the black armors brought out a brilliantly silver machete and swung it toward the incoming Heaven Saint Master with a large shout. "By clan first sword form, Sky Opener." The silver machete instantaneously transformed into a dark green color which then exploded out from the machete's blade with a brilliant resplendent light that filled the sky. The entire world was dyed with a dark green color that shot toward the Heaven Saint Master with blinding speed. At the same time, a heaven-oppressing amount of pressure suddenly filled the entire area. The glow from the machete had locked onto the Heaven Saint Master with a fierce light. To the Heaven Saint Master, the entire area seemed as if it was locking him into a quagmire that made just moving a difficult matter. This is a Heaven-tier battle skill. The Heaven Saint Master that was chasing after the king cried out in shock. He had briefly been unable to believe just what had transpired. No matter what he thought of, there was no way he ever would have thought that an Earth Saint Master of the Jessen Kingdom would have a priceless Heaven-tier battle skill. What? The captain has a Heaven-tier battle skill? Those black armors that had been escorting the king paused for a moment. Their eyes opened wide in shock as they turned to look at their captain in disbelief as well. Up in midair, the news of a Heaven-tier battle skill had caught the interest of the remaining 6 Heaven Saint Masters in the sky above. Each one gave a startled cry as they looked to the black armor's captain that had been using the Heaven-tier battle skill to fight. Their eyes held a coveting look that did nothing to hide their desire on wishing to learn the Heaven-tier battle skill that the black armor's captain was using. Even the 3 Heaven Saint Masters fighting against Yi Ming were tempted by the Heaven-tier battle skill. The 3 let out a loud cry while simultaneously landing a single serious blow on Yi Ming. As he let out a mouthful of blood and fell back down to the ground, the 3 men instantly charged at the black armor's captain. The Heaven Saint Master that had been locked in place due to the Heaven-tier battle skill let out a cruel smile. "I didn't think that a tiny Earth Saint Master would have a Heaven-tier battle skill. How unexpected this was, but with your strength, you cannot bring out the entire might of the battle skill. Even if it is a Heaven-tier battle skill, it isn't enough to pose a problem to me. Allow me to show you my Earth-tier battle skill then." The Heaven Saint Master's saint weapon began to glow with a fierce earthen glow as he prepared to use his Earth-tier battle skill against the Heaven-tier battle skill. The 2 sides collided with a fierce explosion of wind, causing the area around the Imperial Palace to crack into several large fissures. Although the battle skill from the Bai clan was a Heaven-tier battle skill, he was an Earth Saint Master. This meant that the power of his Heaven-tier battle skill would be lessened. Unless he was a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master, using a Heaven-tier battle skill would not be effective against a Heaven Saint Master. So when the Heaven Saint Master's battle skill struck by Dao's own, the Heaven-tier battle skill was instantly dissipated and the Earth-tier battle skill struck by Dao in the chest. He immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and flew 100 meters back toward the palace, landing on the ground. Chapter 471, The King has been captured. The Heaven Saint Masters flew toward Bai Dao, flying through the broken palace walls. Then, several of them carried out the heavily injured Bai Dao. The 10 Heaven Saint Masters stared heavily at Bai Dao with undisguised eyes of avaricious greed before one of them began to breath heavily. Hurry, take his space ring out to see if there's the Heaven tier battle skill. The allure of such a battle skill was so much that all 10 of them had briefly forgotten about their mission. Immediately, someone impatiently searched Bai Dao's space ring before rifling through the inner contents of it. After a while, he shook his head with a disappointed look. No good, the Heaven tier battle skill isn't in this space ring. Let me take a look. One man was unwilling to give up. After looking through the space ring for himself, he finally revealed a similar expression to the first man and spoke in disappointment. There really isn't one in here. Afterward, everyone tried their hand at searching the space ring. There was indeed no Heaven tier battle skill, an Earth tier battle skill couldn't even be found within it. Let's take him back with us, we can interrogate him for it later. A crane-haired elder spoke slowly. No matter what methods we use, we must obtain this battle skill, even if he has to write it out completely for us. A middle-aged man gave his input coldly. If we are able to obtain that Heaven tier battle skill, then our strength will definitely increase by another level. A rather frail-looking person said. The look in his eyes showed an invigorating excitement. Each of the other Heaven Saint Masters had an excited smile on their faces as well. When it came to Heaven tier battle skills, their mouths drooled at the thought of having one. Unless one had some sort of mysteriously strong background support, then even a Heaven Saint Master would find it difficult to have even a single Heaven tier battle skill. Among the 10 of them, not a single one had a Heaven tier battle skill. At the most, the strongest one had an advanced Earth tier battle skill. Crap, the captain has been captured. From not too far away, one of the black armors in charge of protecting the king cried out in shock. There's no use crying about it, we must protect His Majesty. The other black armor's soldier whispered harshly to him as he escorted the king further into the palace. Bai Dao is Chongyang Xiangtian's uncle, there's no way we could allow anything to happen to him. Otherwise, just how would I be able to face him? The king struggled fiercely against his guards, but with his strength, it was useless for him to try. The black armors held on to the king and picked up their pace in a hurry. A single soldier with a black helmet covering his visage spoke in a worried voice, Your Highness, we are up against 10 strong experts with a force we cannot hope to defend against. To go against them is to go to our deaths. We should first prioritize your life so that we can plan to rescue the captain in the future. AI. The king sighed with a downtrodden expression. The actions of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom had caught the Jessen Kingdom completely unprepared. Suddenly, the black armors running in front of them came to a grinding stop as they stared at the area in front of them with a strong concentration. A single middle-aged man could be seen floating 5 meters up in the air as he sneered at them. This was one of the 10 Heaven Saint Masters of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. With so many of us coming on this mission, if we were to let you escape from right under our nose, just what face would we have when we return? The middle-aged man spoke calmly, but there was a look of disdain that could be seen in his eyes. The black armors slowly circled around the king and drew out their saint weapons. On our lives, we will protect His Majesty. There was no dread to be seen in their eyes. Almost as if they gave no regards about their own lives, they charged at the Heaven Saint Masters. The middle-aged man's eyes hardened as he spoke, A group of ants you are, and yet you still act so impudent. With a sudden push of his palms, an abundant amount of energy from the world exploded violently toward the black armors. Bang! 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 After a series of loud bangs, the black armors seemed as if they were struck by gigantic rocks. Each one spat out a large mouthful of blood and flew back through the air. The black armor they wore had already begun to splinter and crack in several different areas. Losing the several bodyguards he had, the king had finally started to feel a little alone. However, his face didn't reveal any fear, instead, his eyes glared dangerously at the expert from the Heaven Saint Master. Your heavenly eagle kingdom will pay a heavy price for your actions today. Do you not know just who the captain of the Black Armors are? He is the uncle of the Qinhuang Kingdom's imperial protector. What? The uncle of the imperial protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom? Ha ha ha. The words of the king had caused the middle-aged man to burst into laughter before looking at the king as if he was an idiot. My dear king of the Jessan Kingdom, you are the ruler of the kingdom, but even you still speak such childish lies? Think about what identity the imperial protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom has. Would his uncle be a lowly bodyguard for a lowly king in a lowly kingdom like the Jessan Kingdom? Humph, you will regret this sooner or later. The king spoke coldly. He knew that this revelation was surprising. He didn't wish to expend any energy explaining if there would be no one to believe him. The middle-aged man slowly walked up to the king's side and put on a fake smile. Your Majesty, we only wish to invite you as a guest for our heavenly eagle kingdom. At the same time, we would like to extend this invitation to your daughter and Changyang Xiangtian. You may as well call them out instead of waiting for us to do the retrieving. If we were to take a move, then that would not do well for you. Hearing this, the king's eyes flashed with an almost undetectable amount of light. Sneering, he spoke, my daughter and Changyang Xiangtian are no longer within the imperial palace. By now, they've already returned to the Changyang Manor in Lore City. If you are truly courageous, then go capture them at their manor, humph. By now, the Jessan Kingdom had only the Changyang clan as a force that could contend against the 10 Heaven Saint Masters. Because of his knowledge, the king knew in his heart that the Changyang clan had 7 Heaven Saint Masters watching over it at the moment. Aside from Changyang Xiangtian and Chang Wuji, whose strength were nearly incomparable, the 5 imperial advisors from the Qinhuang Kingdom were fully capable of fighting 1 against 2. Right now both he and Bai Dao were captured. Whether or not they could escape would rely completely on the Changyang clan. The Changyang clan. The middle-aged man let out a snort and a flash of cold light appeared in his eyes. Smiling sinisterly, he said, we were just on our way to trample the Changyang clan. That makes things convenient. Your Royal Highness, we will be leaving now then. With a single hand, the man carried the king by his clothes and immediately joined with the other 9 Heaven Saint Masters. My friends, I've captured the king of the Jessan Kingdom. The man brought the king right in front of them and laughed. Where is the princess and Changyang Xiangtian? Those 2 people must be brought back as well. We cannot be missing anyone. An elder said. The middle-aged man laughed. The princess and Changyang Xiangtian weren't at the palace. Right now they're at the Changyang clan. It's fortunate that that location was already one of our target locations. There's no time to lose. Let us set off for the manor straight away. However, we must be careful around that Changyang Xiangtian. I've heard Georgian say that he wields a strange and powerful energy that can damage our saint weapons. A red-robed elder spoke from behind with a suspicious expression. There's no need to worry. I don't believe that he would be able to defend himself against all of us. With so many people, he'll be too overwhelmed to do anything. Afterward, the 10 Heaven Saint Masters brought the king and Bai Dao into the sky, leaving thousands of the Black Armors and the heavily injured Yiming to watch in agony as the group of now 12 flew away. News of the king's kidnapping spread far, and soon enough, the entire palace and city had gone into an uproar. Chapter 472, Kicking an Iron Panel. Within the Changyang Manor in Lore City, Changyang Ba and Chang Wuji were conversing with the 5 imperial advisors from the Qinhuang Kingdom in a luxurious-looking room. Jian Chen had left several days ago, giving Changyang Ba the time to chat with the 5 imperial advisors in an attempt to pull them closer together. Honored 5 imperial advisors, if living here for the past few days has not been to your liking, or if there is something not satisfactory, then please speak up and we will definitely strive to improve. Changyang Ba spoke with a laugh. Although his own son was the imperial protector of the Qinhuang kingdom, making the 5 imperial advisors his subordinates, Changyang did not wish to treat them impolitely. After all, they were still Heaven Saint Masters in the end. Our host has been far too polite. We 5 have been very comfortable these past few days. Xiao Tian smiled. Because he was the strongest among the 5 and was exceptionally talented in his own right, he had become the substitute leader while Jian Chen was away. During their talks, they did not treat Changyang as if he was lower than them despite his strength as an Earth Saint Master. On the contrary, the 5 of them had treated him with all the respect they could. It was almost as if they feared angering him so that they seemed more like equals. The reason for this, however, was due to his exceptional son. While the men were joyously chatting together, Chang Wuji's expression suddenly slipped before standing up with a serious expression. Cupping his hands, he spoke, "Honored imperial advisors, my leader, this slave has an urgent matter to attend to." "Chang Wuji, where are you going in such a hurry?" Changyang laughed as he looked to Chang Wuji with an eye that regarded him highly. "Chang Wuji, if you have need for us, then please just instruct us to do so." Xiao Tian laughed as his own eyes secretly looked to the sky outside the room. Chang Wuji uttered a single word of thanks before leaving the room. Standing outside, Chang Wuji's face grew solemn as he flew into the sky. The light in his eyes twinkled with some confusion before his own body flew higher and higher into the sky above the Changyang Manor. A Heaven Saint Master could fly at high speeds. After rushing from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, the 10 Heaven Saint Masters, Bai Dao, and the King of the Jessan Kingdom were already a few several thousand meters away from Lore City. By now, they were on a perfectly straight route for Changyang Manor. A frail-looking man looked at the map in his hands. "Changyang Manor is right in front of us." He spoke. "This time our target is the Changyang clan. They are a minor clan, so let us just annihilate their clan to allow them to know the consequences of offending our Heavenly Eagle Kingdom." A crane-haired elder spoke. He was a member of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom's royal family, so he knew of the finer details of the entire matter more than the others. To completely destroy the Changyang clan was what the king of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom had wanted. Hearing this, the king of the Jessan Kingdom had a look of contempt on his face as he was carried by a middle-aged man. In his heart, he thought, "Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, this time you've truly stirred the hornet's nest. No one can save you now." The 10 Heaven Saint Masters quickly arrived right in front of the Changyang clan, but Chang Wuji could be seen staring at them with both his hands folded against his chest. The men from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom had come without disguising their power at all. The very moment they had entered the vicinity of Lore City, Xiao Tian and Chang Wuji had both sensed their presence. Chang Wuji stared grimly at the 10 experts before his eyes fell upon the king of the Jessan Kingdom and the still unconscious Bai Dao. With a startled composure, he cried out, "Your Majesty! You must be the strongest of the Changyang clan, Chang Wuji." The crane-haired elder spoke with cold eyes and an equally cold voice. With both the king of the Jessan Kingdom and Bai Dao captured, Chang Wuji didn't need to think to know that these 10 were enemies and not friends. "Who are you?" Chang Wuji spoke with a dangerous voice. "We are from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom." "Chang Wuji, have Changyang Shengtian get out here right now. After offending our Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, he cannot leave from here in peace." The crane-haired elder spoke with a tone that seemed to grow even icier with each word. Chang Wuji's eyes flashed dangerously as a spike of energy began to burst from his body. Glowering at the group in front of him, he spoke, "You from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, to dare speak of the 4th Master so disrespectfully, did you wish to die so soon? To speak to us in such a manner, you'll die for this." The same elder's face twisted in anger before charging straight for Chang Wuji with his saint weapon out. Chang Wuji let out an unfearing snort before preparing himself for battle. His own saint weapon appeared in his hand, and at the same time, a surge of saint force began to billow out from within his body in an amount that seemed to exceed his own strength. The waves of energy were so strong that they could be seen rippling through the space around them. For the sake of deterrence, Chang Wuji had immediately used the Heaven's stolen fortune to multiply his fighting strength of a 5th cycle Heaven Saint Master by 3-fold. With this, he had already exceeded the strength of a peak 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master, and if he couldn't split the heavens with a single blow, then he would surely be able to split the mountains and earth. Bang! The two saint weapons collided with a resounding crash. The elder from the heavenly eagle kingdom let out a muffled sound as blood splurted from his lips before he was forced to fly away from Chang Wuji. With a single exchange, Chang Wuji had defeated a 2nd cycle Heaven Saint Master. Such a strength like this shocked the other 9 Heaven Saint Masters from the heavenly eagle kingdom. While they did their research on the Changyang clan earlier and knew of Chang Wuji's strength, they didn't know that he would be that terrifyingly strong. The reason why Chang Wuji had been able to kill any Heaven Saint Masters in the Battle of the 4 Kingdoms against the Jessan Kingdom was due to him borrowing the power of a Heaven-tier battle skill. But now, Chang Wuji had been able to injure a 2nd cycle Heaven Saint Master in a single blow. This type of strength had far exceeded any of their expectations. Beneath, the entire Changyang manor had been sent into disarray when a large amount of killing intent had flooded the area. But when they all looked up to see the 11 Heaven Saint Masters, their faces instantly slackened and instantly found it hard to swallow their saliva due to their mouths dropping open. Unhand His Majesty and by Dao straight away or face the consequences. Chang Wuji didn't continue to attack and instead stared heavily at the men in front of him. With both the king and Bai Dao captured, Chang Wuji wasn't able to fully attack without fear of hurting the two as a result. Be at ease, Chang Wuji. While I admit that your strength is beyond any one of us in a 1-against-1 match, but you are only just one man. Combined with Changyang Xiangtian, there is only 2 Heaven Saint Masters within the Changyang clan. Compared to the 10 of us, do you think the 2 of you have a chance? An elder reasoned. Chang Wuji gave a cold smile. You underestimate our Changyang clan. Now, release the 2 immediately, we've still time to talk about this. Otherwise, the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom will become the enemy of our Jessan Kingdom. Your annihilation will be in due time by then. Ha ha ha, what a great joke you know how to spin. Your Jessan Kingdom has no way of destroying our Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. The crane-haired elder laughed in disdain. At that moment, the one that flew at Chang Wuji had flown back up. His face was pale, and a hint of fear could be seen in the lights of his eyes. A man wearing a bright red robe with equally red hair spoke, "They are all dead men walking, why waste words and time on them? Have some people deal with Chang Wuji, 2 others will go search for Changyang Xiangtian. What a coward for life he is if he doesn't dare to come out." The red-haired elder was a 4th cycle Heaven Saint Master and also the strongest of the group. Within the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, many had already seen him as their leader for the mission. That works. Leader Zhou, Patriarch Huang, Elder Mu Bai, and Elder Ping Yun. The 5 of us will face off against Chang Wuji then. The frail elder laughed. The 5 of them were 3rd cycle Heaven Saint Masters. With their powers combined, then they would be able to give a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master a headache. The 5 elders took a stride forward in midair at the same time. Smiling, one of them spoke, "I've heard Chang Wuji has a Heaven-tier battle skill. We've benefited greatly from the Jessan Kingdom it seems." At this, the other 4 men began to talk among themselves for a moment before quickly engaging Chang Wuji into a brawl. "Father!" Suddenly, a frantic cry could be heard from below only for everyone to see Princess Yu Yu and Bai Yuntian standing beneath them. Their faces had a terrified look as they saw the king within the hands of the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. Yu Yu's lovely face had already turned pale as she feared what might happen to her father. Seeing his own daughter beneath him, the king's face quavered for a moment before shouting, "Yue, run away. Run away now. A battle between Heaven Saint Masters could easily injure a large multitude of people, so the king was worried about the potential damage that could occur to her. The father and daughter conversation allowed the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom to confirm that she was the princess. Straight away, 2 men flew down to the ground to capture her. She was one of the 2 capture targets. Suddenly, before they could even touch the ground, a strange development had occurred as 5 figures suddenly flew in at tremendous speeds. A boundless amount of energy could be felt radiating from their bodies with an overwhelming amount of pressure. What? The 2 Heaven Saint Masters cried out in surprise. They never would have expected that the Changyang clan would have 5 hidden Heaven Saint Masters. Furthermore, these 5 Heaven Saint Masters were no weaker than them. 3 of them were already far stronger than any of them. The 5 Heaven Saint Masters from the Qinhuang Kingdom had finally revealed themselves. The 5 Imperial Advisors hadn't given the 2 men from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom any time to react. The 5 of them instantly drew close to the enemy, and together, they quickly delivered multiple blows to the 2, causing them to fly back with blood coming out from their mouths. What? The Changyang clan still has 5 Heaven Saint Masters? How is that possible, since when did the Changyang clan gain so many? Could all of the experts of the Jessan Kingdom be gathered within Changyang Manor? The entire Heavenly Eagle Kingdom was startled since this had been far beyond their expectations. None of them had thought for a single moment that the Changyang clan would have any hidden experts, especially people with the same amount of strength that these 5 Heaven Saint Masters were exuding. This led the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom to feel especially grim, since this new group seemed as if a 3rd cycle Heaven Saint Master was the weakest among their group, and even he wasn't any weaker than Chang Wuji. The Heavenly Eagle Kingdom were now all looking extremely grim. At this moment, the entire group finally thought that they had tried to kick through an iron panel. Chapter 473, Calamity at the Changyang clan. Rushing forward, the 5 Imperial Advisors quickly rushed toward the 2 Heaven Saint Masters. Without hesitation, they charged straight for the other 3 after dealing with the 2. How disgraceful! Who was in charge of scouting for information? How does the Changyang clan have so many experts? The 5 men fighting Chang Wuji had instantly taken note of what happened below. 3 of them broke away from the fight to fly toward the 5 newcomers while the remaining 2 continued to fight Chang Wuji. None of the 5 Imperial Advisors spoke a word and instead clashed fiercely with the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. Among the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, their strongest Heaven Saint Master was the red-haired elder who was currently facing off against Xiao Tian while the others faced off against another. The middle-aged man with the king of the Jessan Kingdom handed him over to the other man next to him before saying, "I'll leave the king to you. Look over him while I go lend a hand." The other man took the king and shifted the still unconscious Bai Dao over to his right hand. "Be careful." The first middle-aged man gave a serious nod before taking out his saint weapon to enter the battle. There were a total of 10 Heaven Saint Masters involved in battle now. The battle over the Changyang clan would be a strong one. The red-haired 4th cycle Heaven Saint Master continued to exchange several rounds of attacks with Xiao Tian. When the moment came for Xiao Tian to land a single blow on the man's chest, he spat out some blood and the color in his face drained away. Xiao Tian was a 5th cycle Heaven Saint Master and an Imperial Advisor for the Qinhuang Kingdom. His battle strength far exceeded any other 5th cycle Heaven Saint Master, and it could even be said to be comparable to a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master. Thus, there was an extremely noticeable difference between the Heaven Saint Master from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom and him. Upon seeing Xiao Tian's strength, the red-haired man had an extremely serious look on his face before he spoke. "The Jessan Kingdom can't possibly have an expert like you. You aren't from around this kingdom, so who are you?" Xiao Tian didn't bother to reply and instead brought his saint weapon toward the red-haired elder with a powerful stroke. In a flash, the red-haired man had no other choice but to block the strike with his own weapon. "Come help me." Stuck in such a precarious situation, the red-haired elder no longer cared for his pride and cried out for assistance. Hearing the red-haired man cry out for help, the other two men turned pale in the face. Their mouths still dripping with blood, they immediately joined in on the fight so that they could fight 3-on-1 against Xiao Tian. These two men had first been responsible for capturing the princess, but they had been immediately wounded by the appearance of the imperial advisors. After they were injured by the five, their strengths were at best 70% of their maximum fighting capacity. Even with them uniting with the red-haired man, they were incapable of defeating Xiao Tian. At most, they would only be able to keep up some sort of balance with difficulty. So another 3 Heaven Saint Masters had stopped their attack on Chang Wuji to fight Xiao Tian. His strength wasn't that far away from Xiao Tian's, and after several exchanges, he had already begun to regain the advantage despite being set back earlier, giving the men he was fighting no time to retaliate. There were 10 Heaven Saint Masters from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. One of them held both the king and Bai Dao as prisoner while the other 9 were locked in close combat. Among those 9, Xiao Tian was fighting 3, Chang Wuji was now fighting 2, and the both of them were winning. The remaining 4 were now locked in close combat with the remaining 4 imperial advisors. Qing Xiaofan, Dongi Junbai, Chao Kachin, and Tian Luo were 3rd and 4th cycle Heaven Saint Masters. Their strength could compare to Heaven Saint Masters a cycle ahead of them, and combined with their dominating battle strength, they were fully capable of completely suppressing the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom men. Those of the same level of strength would find it a very challenging task to defeat one another in a one-on-one battle. However, the Qinhuang Kingdom was known as one of the 8 great powers. A title that was second only to the 3 great empires on the Tianyuan continent. To become an imperial advisor, the best of the best had to be chosen. With 15 Heaven Saint Masters doing battle, the fight was a sight to behold. Each exchange and each collision created a tremendous blast with sounds that could be heard from far away. The entire Lore City by this point had ceased its actions, so every person could stare in the direction of the Changyang clan in confusion. Even the mercenaries who were eating in a nearby restaurant ran out into the streets or toward the upper levels of the restaurant in order to survey the scene or to discuss with each other. What happened? Why is there such a tremendous sound now? The sounds are coming from the Changyang clan. Is there something happening over at their manor? The sounds created from the Heaven Saint Masters' battle were tremendous to the point where the entire Lore City could hear them. Despite the distance separating the clan and the city, the sounds of battle could be felt by many of the experts. Within the courtyard belonging to a mercenary group, a single robust-looking man quickly walked out from his room as he turned to the sky. What has happened for the world energy to be in such a flux? Could there be several Heaven Saint Masters fighting nearby? Within the courtyards of the other 3 clans in Lore City, several Earth Saint Master experts had already gathered and stared at the sky in astonishment. The energy of the world had been sent in such a heavy turmoil that even an Earth Saint Master could feel the vibrations. The amount of powerful energy felt in the world was enough to cause any one of them to jump in fright. The fallout that came with this current battle was far more destructive than the fallout that would happen when any regular Heaven Saint Master fought with each other. The flux of world energy is coming from the direction of the Changyang clan. Is there a war going on over there? The Changyang clan has the only Heaven Saint Masters in Lore City. What could possibly be happening over there? The men from the 3 clans began to converse with other Earth Saint Masters in an attempt to guess what was happening. Each one of them was extremely curious and immediately set out in a rush toward the Changyang clan. Even the city lord of Lore City was startled. With several Earth Saint Masters, he immediately set out on a magical beast's back toward the Changyang manor. By now, all of the Earth Saint Masters in Lore City had already guessed several Heaven Saint Masters were partaking in some sort of large battle. They had put a pause to whatever they had initially been doing to run toward the source of the sounds. No matter what was happening at the Changyang clan, a battle between Heaven Saint Masters was not something to miss. It was an opportunity for them. there was a chance that one of them would be able to comprehend the mysteries of the world wielded by one of the Heaven Saint Masters and make the breakthrough to become a Heaven Saint Master as well. The entire Chongyang Manor had been sent into an uproar already. With over 10 Heaven Saint Masters doing battle, everyone there felt as if they were suffering from a large headache. The entire compound had been sent into disorder with the guards and servants scuttling around. Some of the unluckier men had even been struck by the ripples of energy, killing them violently. Within several moments, there was not a single intact room left within the entire compound. Every single building had received damage equivalent to the entire compound collapsing. Even the pavilion where all the manuals were stored had collapsed, and the 10-meter-tall towers had fallen to pieces as well. Several of the servants who were inside the buildings when they collapsed could be heard screaming out in agony. "My lord, please escape right away." Several bodyguards loyal to Chongyang Ba could be heard right by his side in an attempt to lead him away from the danger. "Madam, please run away." Several other bodyguards were trying to lead the fear-stricken Ling Long away as well. A single burst of fire shot down from the air and made contact with the buildings. With that spark, the entire compound was lit aflame instantly. "Ahu, Ahu! Save my Ahu quickly, he's still in his room." Ling Long immediately bawled as she ran over to one of the combusted rooms. "Protect the madam, I'll save the young master." One of the captain guards cried out before plunging into the burning room before Chongyang Ba could speak. "Quick, escort the second lady into the cellar." The guards then ushered the startled Yu Fengyan down toward the area with the cellars. At the same time, Bai Yuntian was escorted by her own bodyguards toward the same area. "Fourth lady, it's dangerous outside, please get into the cellar." A guard spoke anxiously, but as he spoke, several rays of sword chi could be seen shooting down from the sky, piercing holes into the ground. Suddenly, the expression on the guard's face froze as blood flowed down his head before he ultimately fell to the ground. "Captain, Captain! What happened?" The guard escorting Bai Yuntian cried out in anguish before running to where his captain lay on the ground. "There's no time to delay, quickly escort the fourth lady down." The other guards spoke through their agony and used their own bodies to protect Bai Yuntian as they brought into the protected area. At this moment, another torrent of energy continued to wreak havoc from the sky above. The roof to one of the buildings on the side of Bai Yuntian had begun to lift from the ground and into the direction of Bai Yuntian, causing the guards around her to grow startled. Just at that moment, a cyan glow shot into the scene. The white-robed Ming Dong came into view. With a chop of his sword chi, he split the falling building in two, eliminating the danger. Ming Dong looked to the energy storm above them and turned his head back to look at Bai Yuntian with a solemn look. "I'll lead the way, Dugu Feng, Aunt Bai's safety will be up to you. Protect Auntie well, if something happens to her, how would we ever face Jian Chen?" Dugu Feng stood nearby with a vigilant expression. "I will do my best, but a battle of Heaven Saint Masters is far too much for even us. With all that energy being thrown about, even the two of us will have to be extremely careful, please make sure to look after me as well." "Understood. Please go with them towards the safe area. You should be able to escape from there." Ming Dong immediately began to spearhead a route while Dugu Feng ran to escort and protect Bai Yuntian from any external dangers. Chapter 474, Asari escape. With Ming Dong and Dugu Feng acting as two Earth Saint Master bodyguards, Bai Yuntian's safety was at its highest point. The princess was extremely safe right by her side. At that moment, another large wave of energy shot down from the sky. Soon the entire ground was filled with several holes from explosions that sent large pieces of rubble toward Ming Dong and the others. "Careful!" Ming Dong cried out as he ran to protect Bai Yuntian and the princess. The sword in his hand danced as he moved to bring down the stone in front of him. Dugu Feng himself wielded a giant sword that seemed to dance with flames right by his side. Despite their strengths, there were far too many stones for them to fend off. With the waves of explosion that happened every so often, a finger-sized stone finally broke through their defensive net. With a whistling sound, it shot straight for Bai Yuntian before ultimately leaving behind a small cut that allowed blood to show. Ah! A pained cry came from behind Bai Yuntian. Turning around, she could see that the princess was clutching her left shoulder where blood was flowing freely, staining her clothes with a red tint. Are you all right? Bai Yuntian ignored her own wound and quickly looked back to the pain-stricken Yu. I am fine. Yu spoke, but her pained expression was proof enough that she was enduring a large amount of pain. Seeing Bai Yuntian and Yu sustain an injury, Dugu Feng and Ming Dong both let show a startled expression. God damn it! Ming Dong cursed. The battle is getting far too rowdy. We can't delay any longer. Hurry into the cellar. Soon after, everyone quickened their pace. The battle in the sky grew more and more intense. While the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom held an advantage with numbers, their strength was beneath the Qinhuang Kingdom's Heaven Saint Master. Thus, the 9 Heaven Saint Masters were completely suppressed by the 6 Heaven Saint Masters to the point where they weren't even able to fight back, forcing them to rely on just their battle skills. All sorts of advanced Earth-tier battle skills continued to be thrown about from each of the 9 Heaven Saint Masters. Whenever they made contact with the individuals from the Changyang clan, they would explode with a terrifyingly huge amount of energy that would distort the space around them. With the intensity of the energy, the space seemed like it would split itself apart. Although there was a very noticeable difference between a Heaven-tier battle skill and an Earth-tier battle skill in terms of power, when a Heaven Saint Master used an Earth-tier battle skill, the power from it should not be underestimated, especially when 9 Heaven Saint Masters used one at the same time. The amount of power that would overlap each other was tantamount to several Heaven-tier battle skills clashing and could shatter the firmaments of the heavens. Ah! Suddenly, a cry of agony could be heard, piercing cleanly through the exploding sounds of battle. Turning to look, everyone could see the Heaven Saint Master that was fighting Chang Wuji had his right hand chopped off. The arm flopped to the ground while blood sprayed out of the stump like rain. Chang Wuji's eyes had a thirst for blood in them as he stepped forward without letting the man escape him. With a thundering clap of sound, his sword stabbed straight through the man's chest. Elder Ping Yun. The other man fighting Chang Wuji cried out in shock. Charging forward, he attempted to stab Chang Wuji through the chest as well. With an ice-cold expression, Chang Wuji pulled his sword out from the man's chest and swung his sword with all his might toward the incoming enemy. By himself, how could a third cycle Heaven Saint Master be a match for Chang Wuji? With a single thrust of his sword, Chang Wuji repelled the man. Chang Wuji's face was especially gloomy and a fury radiated from his eyes. There was no way he didn't know what was happening down below him, but with the 2 men he was fighting annoying him to death, there had been no way for him to go down to save anyone. Chang Wuji's gaze locked onto the chest of the man he had stabbed. With a single step, he flew toward him, and with his sword hand falling downward, he moved to lop off the man's head. Although using a Heaven-tier battle skill would easily kill his opponent, it would also require a large amount of Saint force. Not only that, but the Changyang clan down below would be hit with the fallout. A Heaven-tier battle skill would decimate the entire manor. Seeing the sword falling down at a tremendous speed, the man's face fell with shock. First he had lost his right arm, then he had a hole straight through his chest. The 2 of these 2 wounds had already brought forth a tremendous amount of damage. He wouldn't even have enough energy to defend himself against another strike, so he opted to fall toward the ground. With a sneer, Chang Wuji's sword tip shot forth 10 meters in an instant. Quickly, the sword came down with an executing slash that bisected the man's head, killing his soul. Thus, the very first individual from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom was killed by Chang Wuji. Elder Ping Yun. A grief-filled voice called out from the man who had been sent flying back from Chang Wuji's earlier blow. Heavenly Eagle Kingdom. Today I will ensure that you pay a heavy price for your actions. Chang Wuji exclaimed as he brought his sword flying toward the other man with a swift motion. After seeing Chang Wuji kill someone, the other 5 Heaven Saint Masters from the Qinhuang Kingdom grew excited. Their movements grew quicker and, in the span of several seconds, the enemy side gained new wounds. Blood spilled from their mouths as their momentum fell like an arrow at the end of its flight. Bang! Suddenly, a splurt of blood could be seen falling through the sky. Xiao Tian's hand had rammed straight into one of the Heaven Saint Master's head, pulverizing it into a bloody mess. Thus, the second Heaven Saint Master from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom had fallen. We can't win, retreat. After having 2 of their own killed, the remaining few members felt as if they were dealt a tremendous blow. One of the members immediately cried out for the others to give up the fight and to escape. If I let you run away, Qing Xiaofan would have no face to return back home. Qing Xiaofan sneered. With the wind element enveloping his body, he quickly streamed for one of the escaping fighters. The Heavenly Eagle Kingdom men were dominated completely. Although they were able to hold on to their lives, they wouldn't be able to do so for long. Everyone from their group knew when they were over their heads and no longer had the bravado from earlier. Seeing someone else try to run, the others had been hasty not to fall behind and ran away one by one. After a short battle, 2 of the 9 had fallen and the remaining 7 had been severely injured. On the other side, no one had taken any heavy injuries and still had energy to spare. Unlike them, the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom's men barely had any energy left to escape. It won't be that easy to get away. All 5 of the Imperial advisors gave chase with Xiao Tian leading the group while Chang Wuji stayed behind to check on the Changyang clan down below. Experts from all over had rushed to this location the moment they heard a battle taking place at the Changyang clan. They began to observe the intense battle from far away with absolute shock. In the golden age of the Jessen Kingdom, they had no more than 10 Heaven Saint Masters. With Chang Wuji now as the 11th, they were at a number that was greater than the amount of Heaven Saint Masters in their golden age. As for the Changyang clan, their entire compound had been laid to waste. Every building had collapsed into rubbish, and the bodies of guards and servants could be seen strewn about. Although the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom men had fled, the battle had not yet stopped. The 5 imperial advisors from the Qinhuang Kingdom continued to surprise everyone by chasing the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom men with no mercy. Qing Xiaoshan possessed the wind-attributed saint force and could use the wind element to increase his speed to become the fastest among the group. In a flash, he was able to catch up to his adversary and began to unleash his full strength. Easily throwing out an advanced Earth-tier battle skill, he chopped off the head of one of the already injured men. The man didn't instantly die from the blow and had hurriedly grabbed at his head before attempting to escape. Killing a Heaven Saint Master would require vanquishing the soul. However, this man who had his head chopped off was weakened. Without any energy to fight, he was ultimately slower than the rest. In an instant, Qing Xiaoshan caught him and bisected the head in 2. By that point, the other 4 imperial advisors had already caught up with the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom and forced them into another fierce battle in the sky once more. Energy began to be thrown about, causing heavy damage to the streets and buildings nearby. Countless passers-by cried out in panic as they tried to escape while some of the unluckier ones were struck by the waves of energy, killing them in a violent manner. In that one moment of warfare, the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom lost another expert by the hands of Xiao Tian. Xiao Tian extinguished the man's soul with a single strike through the eyebrows, allowing his body to fall to the ground and crumple on the streets. The man who was holding both the king and Bai Dao realized that if he didn't take an emergency action here and now, it would be insanely difficult for him to run away. With that in mind, he immediately threw both captives in opposing directions before shouting, "If you wish for the king, then here you have him." The 5 imperial advisors had stayed within the Changyang clan for many days and thus learned many things from their talks with Changyang Ba. So they knew the identity of these two. One of them was the future father-in-law of their imperial protector, the other was the uncle of their imperial protector. Both of these men were of high importance, and so there had been no hesitation in what to do next. Straight away, 2 of the 5 men broke away to rescue the king and Bai Dao. The one who had thrown the 2 had not yet ran away. Immediately taking out his saint weapon, he quickly used a mighty earth-tier battle skill in an attempt to save his comrades. The 2 Heaven Saint Masters that were not able to run away due to their injuries tried their best to take advantage of the moment where the king and Bai Dao were being rescued. They were able to run away as sorry figures with the assistance of their comrade, forcing the other 3 to pull back. After several moments, the king and Bai Dao were both safely rescued. The 2 of them were rather weak and had been in a state of unconsciousness. If they were to hit the ground as they were, it would be a stroke of luck if they didn't die. We can't let them run away like this. Luo Tian spoke as he looked at the escaping men, his foot itching to give chase. Stopping Luo Tian, Xiao Tian spoke, "Forget that for now. The Imperial Protector won't let this debt go unpaid so easily. For now, our top priority is to return these people back to the Changyang clan and save the others." "Right, saving them is our top priority. If something were to happen to anyone of importance, then how could we justify ourselves?" Dongi Junbai agreed. Afterward, the 5 imperial advisors returned to the Changyang manor, leaving behind the corpses of the 2 men from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom on the streets. The fight had not lasted long, and the commotion that had struck Lore City had finally abated. From the 10 Heaven Saint Masters from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, in the end, only 6 of them had been able to escape. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.